KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and streaming, or download the KBC Countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform or online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Unajua nini mama? Niko karibu kwenda shule. Na sitaki kuwa na stress kukuhusu.
Kristi, hebu rudi shuleni.
Wewe enda mtuwakilishe sisi wale tulishindwa na masomo vipoa.
When Angela and Christy meet at the university, their bond somehow clicks.
Dad is somewhere up there in the sky on his way to China. I'll never forget when he took us to Singapore. Wow, it was fun.
Followed by a friendship that would defy their parallel backgrounds.
Since umezoea shower. Good luck inside there.
How is this door shut?
Kuma bezi nuko mshoishikilie mlango kwa frame.
This new territory presents all manner of fasts as influence, temptation, family histories and peer pressure set in. The rest of their lives become a story of love, survival.
Wait.
Please mom, kubali tu story tumalizane twende home.
Influence, backstabbing, jealousy and revenge.
Nimeambiwa tu kule stage muonekana na minji fulani mkikama hapa mtaani.
You decided to sneak from the hostel and go to Ray's studio without consulting me or Tiff.
Join us on Tempted the Campus Diaries as we explore this hilarious never seen before drama.
Hebu nilipe pesa zangu wewe.
With a touch to behold. A story of temptation.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit.
Quickbit?
Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings?
Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi 2 unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi 5 unaweza nunua hata gari.
So tupeleke huko hata
Mtu aendi huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Good morning. Karibu sana to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Boy. Glad you are with us this morning. It is the last day of November 2020, the 30th. Trusting that you have had a peaceful month in as much as we are all going through it all. We do trust that this month has been a bit better. And as we try to usher in the last month of the year, things will be, will bring the year to a beautiful close as opposed to how things have been throughout. Today being Monday, we are going to be having our family check conversation, and today we are going to be talking about the 16 days of activism that we are right in. Now, these days run from the 25th of November up until the 10th of December, looking at 16 days, talking about 16 issues that mostly affect women under the gender-based violence category, how far we have come, what more we need to do as a country, more so during this time that COVID-19 is said to have accelerated the number of cases that were reported when it comes to gender-based violence against women, more so, and children. That is what we're going to be talking about today. So we welcome you to be part of this conversation. From wherever it is that you're watching us from this morning, we will be giving you our channels of communication in not too long. Welcome once again to the program.
Indeed, it's a very good morning here on KBC Channel 1, indeed in time for Good Morning Kenya. And as you said, it's the only way to kickstart your morning. I'm glad that you made time. I'm Regina Manyera. We're going to be looking at stories that have been making headlines over the weekend and precisely over the last 24 hours. It is, we will not rest until we stop the BBI reggae. That is words from, activists saying that this is not the time. And at the same time, the former premier, that is ODM leader Raila Odinga, has told Muslims, well, it is too late to give your views in regard to the BBI. Away from matters, BBI is at on a global scale since we're fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. A woman has given birth to a child with coronavirus antibodies. Is that mean they're going to be making headways in as far as finding a lasting solution to this pandemic? That will be coming up in not too long in the headlines. Not forgetting what is happening in the sporting arena. Manchester United were playing over the weekend, as well as Arsenal. And if you enjoy a little bit of boxing, yes, Mike Tyson is back on the ring. That is going to be coming up in not too long in the headlines. Remember, we're live and we welcome your feedback. And our website is www.kbc.co.ke. Our Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1 News. Get tweeting. Let us know what you want highlighted and what you think of what we have prepared so far. Good morning once again. Let's do this.
All right, and good morning to you. On the boards this morning, we'll be focusing on Ngong Road, and this is simply because we're just trying to check the progress that is in terms of expansion of that specific road, and this is the phase 3 of Ngong Road, which begins from Dagoretti all the way to Karen, and also we will be checking the 3 footbridges that they mentioned that they are going to be installed on that specific road, and this is actually in phase 1 and phase 2 of Ngong Road. Remember that Kenya National Highways Authorities, which is responsible for bridges in this country, say that it's a project that is going to take 18 months. But the sad part is that it has not yet started. So what really is stalling this project? That is what I'll be telling you in a few. But for now, we'll just be checking the traffic flow on that specific route. Many thanks for making time. My name is Doreen Arange. Now, I'll be showing you also what they mentioned, actually what is going to contain, in those 3 footbridges. But for now, let's just check the traffic flow on this specific route. This is actually around the city mortuary roundabout where Ngong Road begins, going all the way to those estates there, like Karen, Ngong, as well as Dagoretti, and all those different places just along this specific route. And look at how the roundabout is looking like this morning, at least. Yes, there's a bit of traffic, but a manageable kind of traffic, just as you branch off from the city mortuary roundabout as you head over to Ngong Road. On that section there, that's just where it looks like there's a bit of heavy traffic because of the red color there, which also means that yes, this is heavy traffic moving at a really slow pace around, not even actually around the entire roundabout, but on that section just there as you leave the roundabout heading to the other side of Ngong Road. But at least the better part of the roundabout this morning doesn't really look that bad. Remember that again, also this is one of those major roundabouts as well as busy roundabouts coming from Ngong Road, just as what we're looking at, as well as on the other side of Valley Road, also heading to the other side of Ngong Road and coming again from Mbagathi Way. So clearly one of those busy roundabout. But what I'm seeing, or what I can mention is rather interesting, is actually on that section as you leave Mbagathi Way all the way from Langata Road, coming through Mbagathi Way before you get to the city mortuary roundabout. On that section there, at least there's green, meaning that there's no traffic at all. So again, if you're coming from the areas of along Mbagathi Way or even Langata Road, if you intend to use this specific route, so at least it's going to be a smooth sailing for you just as you branch off to the other side of the roundabout. Again, also coming through the other side of Ngong Road, also that section there doesn't really look that bad. So where there's just heavy traffic is actually as you head over over to Ngong Road, remember I've told you that throughout this roundabout, it comes all the way from Valley Road as you head over to Ngong Road and also leave Ngong Road, and again also the other side of Mbagathi. So the section where there's just heavy traffic is actually as you head over to Ngong Road. And when I say that, what I just mean is that as you head over to the estates there. On the other side though, at least no traffic at all, moving pretty fast, but looks like things are changing on that section as you leave Valley Road coming to the city center, on that just on that lane as you head over to the roundabout coming to the other side of CBD, and also through the roundabout heading over to Mbagathi, where on that section heavy kind of traffic just at a standstill, and that has actually changed this very minute. So again, if you're coming from the areas of V Road, this could clearly also be the best time for you to do that, because in as much as yes, it has changed for the worse, it's only on that section. So you can imagine the next hours to be something totally different. But at least as of now, it looks like, you know, traffic is not really building up through this entire roundabout. And also as you head over to Ngong Road as well, there's no heavy traffic, just a smooth sailing for our viewers coming from these specific areas as you head over to the CBD, and also just leaving city center heading all to the other side of Ngong Road. Also leaving Mbagathi Way, not bad at all, green all through on both lanes. So again, also a smooth sailing for those leaving the areas of high rise, and also like I mentioned, areas of Langata as well. And again, also heading to the city center through Ngong Road, also not that bad. In fact, it's just green all through, meaning that there's no traffic at all. So just where there's really heavy traffic, if I can mention, again, is on that section. Also throughout the entire roundabout, looks like traffic is really beginning to slightly build up, because the entire green color now has changed to orange, which ultimately means that traffic has just begun to slightly build up. But then again, it's a manageable kind of traffic, because that is what the orange color means there. But just as I have mentioned, I'll be showing you the images of the phase 3 of Ngong Road, as well as also those 3 bridges that they mentioned that they are going to be installed on those 3 areas. Again, also stick around to find out which areas are this, where these bridges will be installed, and why they'll be installing them in this period of 18 months, and also why it has stalled, meaning it hasn't yet started. But at least as of now, this is how it's looking like in terms of traffic just around the city mortuary roundabout as you head over to Ngong Road.
Hi, Sam.
What's up? How are you?
Wagwan. How you?
Why do I feel like I'm tolling way above all of you?
You're towering above the rest of us. It is what it is, as you are adjusted. How you doing?
Niko salama kabisa. Kicking up this Monday as it should.
As it should. Tunakata negativity yote.
Aye. Kwani.
Get ye behind me.
It's a Monday. It's a Monday.
It's a Monday, Manze.
It's a Monday.
We got an entire week to go. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
Hi, Ray.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What's popping today?
Now, in as far as news is concerned, and we start off with the headlines, you know. If that is what you're asking.
That ball.
Let's start off with the newspaper. I'm going to be focusing on the Standard this morning, and what has been captured on the front page looks like that. Tough speak there from ODM leader Raila Odinga to none other than the Muslims, saying, well, it's a case of a little bit too late to give your views right now. In regard to the BBI, now ODM leader meets Muslim clerics in Mombasa, drums up support for the referendum as signatures collection gathers pace, and the leaders ask for religious balance in national appointments and posting of Muslim envoys to Islamic countries. Details will be coming up in not too long. Big read on the Standard this morning, why Ruto is cornered. You might be asking a question, a rhetoric question. Is he? But is he? You know, a day in politics is quite a long time. Now, tightrope, the deputy president is in a catch-22. To support his boss, he must abandon hustler flock, yet he needs to fire them up, his power ambitions. To oppose the BBI bill after publicly praising some of the clauses is like throwing the baby out with the bath water. Now, to sit on the fence is a hallmark of cowardice for a man who loves a good fight. Walking the tightrope. That's what the scribe has chosen to describe Deputy President William Ruto's state in as far as matters of politics is concerned in this current time. And at the same time, talking about the education sector, is that where is our cash for COVID deaths? This is a question posed to carpenters. Remember, 1.9 billion shillings was, set aside for the desks as well as chairs targeting public schools. Then also we have a big reading as far as health matters are concerned. Why Kenya is the worst place to be with to be as a child with cancer. That will be coming up in not too long as we continue just focusing on stories that are making headlines in the last 24 hours. This is what we have on the Standard.
Right. Let's now get to the Daily Nation. That is the Star of the Standard? Ray? Standard.
Yeah.
I think nimesikia Star.
Star iko the other side.
On the other end of Zings. Now, let us get to the Daily Nation, starting with the main stories there on the top of the Daily Nation. We start with Tyson's draw as he formally announces his continuance in the boxing ring following the draw on his comeback bout. He says that he's going to fight more moving forward. We'll be getting to the details of that in not too long. Coming to the Deputy President, Ruto skips 2 Uhuru meetings in 1 week. After giving BBI launch the shoulder, DP was also a no-show at the security talks. The same question as what has been captioned there on the Standard. Will he have to drop the hustler flow in order to support his boss? Big question right there. We'll be getting to the details of how that story has been captured. But looking at the main story there on the front page of the Daily Nation, where are these school children? As there could be a reported massive dropout of thousands of learners who failed to show up when institutions partially reopened last month, and these are grade 4, class 8 and form 4 students. Officials now are raising concerns and fear as they are reporting that there could be massive dropouts once they're able to get all the figures right. They say they're unable to account for the whereabouts and things of so many children, and things can only get worse when now the official reopening of schools for the rest of the learners will be happening. That is on the 4th of January. Teen pregnancies, early marriages and child labor have been cited as the main causes of these dropouts so far, but they're yet to get the proper figures. But here they've estimated some 20,000 grade 4 and standard 8 as well as form 4 learners have failed to report back, at least in some of the public schools rather, that they have been able to get the figures. We'll be looking at that story in not too long. But now moving to Mombasa, there is a reprieve for ferry users as a new bridge is set to be ready in weeks. The floating bridge is being put up to just enable the movement from one end to the other and help ease the ferry transport use. Details of that in a bit. And also just looking at the uproar that has been caused in regards to chiefs who are set to collect BBI signatures. Civil society groups and politicians allied to the DP have queried the use of chiefs in this collection of signature processes. Details in not too long.
Well, my details are coming up right now because the ladies are talking about details coming up in not too long. Well, here's the stuff for you this morning. EACC needs a foreign help when it comes to KEMSA probe. And Twalib Barak, that is the CEO of EACC, now says that due to its volume and complexity, investigation needs to be undertaken in phases. Pages 4 to 5 of this particular daily carries this story in earnest, where the president has now given 21 days and gave 21 days, but nearly 100 days later, the case is still going cold. To the top of the daily, haunted Garissa varsity killer commits suicide in committee prison. We saw this story break yesterday online, and I'll be giving you the details in the course of in the headlines today. And brave top soldier who kicked Ruto out of ODM now dies. And the deputy president eulogized this particular gentleman known as Lieutenant General John Kowet and described him as a leader of character, a hero, a true patriot, and a brave man in uniform who was dedicated to serve and defend Kenya. DP allies now want Kenyans to vote for BBI clauses. So basically what they're proposing is all the issues that have been highlighted by the BBI document be subjected to a multiple question or multiple questions rather. And Kenyans now will get an opportunity to decide which issues they agree with and which ones they do not agree with. That story is on page 6 of the Star this morning. But there is a very interesting picture on the front page of the Star, and it is the young and the elderly saying yes to BBI referendum. And pictured here is Mama Susilia Ombok of Kanyakwar village in Kisumu East Sub-County, who is being assisted to append her signature by the grandson, that is Samuel Omonga, during the BBI signature collection drive in Kisumu. You will find this story on page 7 of the Star this morning. And remember, governors are supposed to be the agents for BBI collection, or BBI signature collection across all the 47 counties. And you will definitely find that some governors have picked up this exercise in earnest. We see this example in Kisumu. Over the weekend, we saw similar initiatives being launched in Vihiga County, for example, where Wilbur Otichilo was at the forefront of doing the same. Mombasa County Governor, that is Ali Hassan Joho, still doing the same. And also we witnessed on Friday, Kiambu County Governor, that is James Nyoro, overseeing the launch of the signature collection drive in Kiambu County. So these are some of the issues that we shall be delving into in the course of In the Headlines today, and also during Iron Politics at 8 a.m. this morning.
Now, I was trying to get you that, caption. Better read on the front, on page 8 from the front page of the Standard, is that no more room for fresh views on BBI, Raila tells Muslim leaders. Now, quoted there is Raila Odinga saying that the Constitution is a living document and the gaps identified will be filled through amendments over time. And this is the first amendment to the 2010 Constitution. Yeah, now, in the memorandum presented by Sheikh Ngao, the Muslim leaders demanded that if the president is a non-Muslim, the positions of deputy president or prime minister to be handed to a Muslim from the coast region. They called for elevation of office of the chief Qadi to the equivalent of a high court judge, and the establishment of a Qadi court of appeal to handle cases of the lower Qadi courts. Now, that is what is happening as far as, the BBI and the Muslim sect is concerned. And also talking about the BBI is that activists have vowed to stop the BBI reggae. Yes, Linda Katiba, this is a project where we have, we see this lobby group, and captured on page 7 of the Standard, we have a picture there of none other than the Linda Katiba lobby group is led by NARC Kenya party leader Martha Karua, activist Boniface Mwangi, and economist David Ndii. Now, they say under the Linda Katiba movement, the group has said that the process was an attempt to overthrow the 2010 Constitution. And this comes days after President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga last week launched the collection of signatures to support the BBI. More to give us more perspective into what has been happening over the weekend, our reporter Suleiman Yeri, compiled a story that shows what has been happening as far as the BBI collection of signatures has been going on over the weekend, and this is the report.
ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru, who was in Nyeri, said Kenya will witness a new rebirth through the BBI process.
Hii BBI ndio itaendelesha hiyo amani ambayo tuko nayo hapa Kenya. Kwa hivyo mimi ya kwanza nina support sababu ya hiyo.
Musheru called on the youth to support the constitutional amendment bill, saying it aims at empowering the young people economically.
Youth is the future and they are also the now. Na kwa hivyo lazima tufanye kazi nao pamoja, lazima wawe na hiyo council na commission ambayo itasaidia ndio tuendelee na mambo mengi.
The main ghost in this country is corruption. And this BBI has also said Cases now will have a time limit.
Meanwhile, sections of ODM leader are calling on the Deputy President William Ruto to come out clear and state his stand on the BBI referendum bill led by Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. The opposition party leaders say the DP should be categorical on his position on the referendum bill, as some issues he had been uncomfortable with have not been dropped.
Yeye alituambia hataki mambo ya prime minister na deputies wake, bado ziko ndani ya BBI. Kwa hivyo unaunga hiyo ama haungi? Anaunga prime minister ama haungi, kwa sababu alituambia hataki.
Wewe kubali ukuwe upinzani kama deputy, kwa sababu umeamua kuchukua hiyo direction, ndio hii ikuwe tamu.
Sasa tunataka kumwona akiweka saini, lete watu wote watangatanga waeke saini, ili Kenya yetu tuweze kwenda mbele.
Well, a section of Western leaders led by Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa are calling on the area leaders to work together to marshal support for BBI in the region. Speaking at Mabanga during the official launch of collecting BBI signatures in Bungoma, Wamalwa said he is grateful for the unity of purpose which has been exhibited by leaders from Western by endorsing BBI.
Hiyo safari vile tuliweka hapa, tunataka iendelee through BBI. When we are fighting for a united country called Kenya, wanasema ukarimu huanzia nyumbani na umoja pia huanzia wapi? Nyumbani.
Tuwe a big unit, na ikifika 2022 tukae mezani tuulize ni chetu kiko wapi, watu wa Western.
Well, in Kisii, Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula said some contentious issues that were contained in the Bomas BBI report have been dropped, and the new document being presented to Kenyans has much improvements which warrants the support of all leaders.
Final draft that we signed to at KICC is a document that represents the aspirations of Kenyans. Many of the contentious issues have been edited out. Many of the issues that were causing divisions have been removed, and we now have a document that will lead this country to a very tranquil, a very successful future.
And in Nairobi, the Linda Katiba Civil Society Group is now questioning the motive behind the Building Bridges Amendment push. The group claiming the vigor to change the constitution is a crafted plan to benefit some few individuals in power. The group questioning the constitutionality of the process, claiming as a state-sponsored, it should be initiated through parliament.
A people's process should not only be guided by the people, but cannot be used using state resources.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
All right, we now move on to the Daily Nation and get to one of the stories that are on the front page. And this is in regards to what is happening in Mombasa. Let me quickly just get it for you. In regards to ferry users and the fact that there could be reprieve by the time we are closing the year. As we said, we are hoping to close the year better than it has been. And this is now in regards to the new Likoni Bridge that is currently under construction and is expected to be ready in 2 weeks. Now, this is a project that has been undertaken by the Kenya National Highway Authorities, saying the project manager, Mr. Eric Wambua, saying that 80% of the bridge is complete and it is estimated to cost approximately 1.9 billion Kenya shillings to finish this floating bridge at Likoni. It is expected to be an iconic bridge and also a source of tourist attraction, given that it is going to be something that so many people would want to experience being on, and therefore goes on to reassure all the Kenyans that are hoping to travel to the coast this December holiday that, you know, you're going to have an easier time when you're trying to just cross over from one point to the other. They say they are done with the foundation and they are now working on the structure that is above water. And during an inspection tour, the Coast Regional Commissioner, that is John Elinguta, said that they should be able to see people safely and easily crossing from one side of Mombasa to the other, and all thanks to this particular bridge. And also according to the main contractor of this particular floating bridge, that is the China Road and Bridge Corporation, they say that they are ready to hand over the projects to the government by the end of December, and hopefully it will be operational before by mid-December, that is the 15th of December. It is going to ease with at least 50% of all the pedestrian congestion that is experienced, especially those who use the ferry on a daily. And also they are saying they're going to be having 150-meter movable section mid-bridge, which is to allow for the opening and closing of the bridge to ease movement of ships as they come in and out of the port. And once they hand over this particular bridge, it will be taken over. Management of this particular bridge will be taken over by the Kenya Ferry Service and by the Kenya Ports Authority. So they're hoping that this bridge will officially be operational by mid-December and officially handed over to the Kenya Ports Authority by close of the year. So this is reprieve and good news, at least for the people who use this particular bridge on a daily, easing up congestion. And there's actually a story of one Hamisi who has, talked about his experience having to wait for the ferry, how it's always a marathon, just trying to get on it and to get off it on a day as he tries to go about his business. And I think at this particular point we want to take our first commercial break, but do stay with us. We are not yet done with In the Headlines. More of this coming up after this break.
I am waiting for your love.
Ni mimi. Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduthi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Ini last botamas kwa kalenda ya mamasta majima bazenga. She's so expensive, okay.
Niweke kwa inamba buda boss do my kit. Na tumepia na ya kutoa.
Time already, it's time already. Time already, it's time already.
Make I tell you what you love for a bullet. It's your body, body, yeah.
Back it up right away, yeah, right away, right away.
Gang, rada chafu nikishikaga, hizo chafu bana shika shash, pale bedroom kila siku bash, hini lynch ndakikamba.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If you return alive to witness my might, then I assure you that you will be stunned.
Don't worry about us. Think about your journey. Focus on the mission that you are heading to.
People say that I am cruel and ruthless, but I have to do this to maintain order in the state.
I will be very happy to assist a realist prince to reach his destination.
Soldier, go and get some water!
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Jimmy, kwa nini nilimkosea?
You might need to take care of him as well. Are you attempting to get rid of everyone associated with Richard? You're the one who said the police are after you.
So, you're saying I've done nothing worthwhile here?
Saying you've got some tough decisions out of you.
Nataka sasa niwache kila kitu tena kwa sababu yako.
This is more important.
Utajuaje?
Binti, for once, do as you're
Mimi
told.
si mtoto.
I'm owning up today. I'm going to make things right.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Finito just can't marry Luisa. I love him.
So happy for you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Armand.
You don't want to do things my way, and we have no deal.
Want to report that I just saw several men deliver large amounts of drug packages at Medfair Caribbean Shop.
I will always be against that marriage of
I
yours.
don't care. I'm marrying her. I'm going to marry her whether you like it or not.
You are under arrest for drug trafficking.
El paraíso
In Love with Ramon.
Welcome back to the show. In case you're just joining us, karibu sana to the program. This is the only way to start your morning. Good morning, Kenya. My name is Samuel Njoroge. I draw your attention to page 7 of the Star this morning. It's all about the grain handling in Mombasa, an issue that has been at the forefront for the better part of quite some time now. And now MPs seek to end monopoly in grain handling in Mombasa. And there has been agitation to liberalize services by allowing other additional operators. And the members of the National Assembly's Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning are seeking to end the monopoly of grain handling services at the port of Mombasa. And in a report to the House, the MPs said the past 10 years, the port of Mombasa has experienced exponential growth in grain imports, with wheat almost quadrupling. And this significant growth has given an impetus to the need to have a second, third, or even fourth grain bulk handling terminal. This is what the report says. You will find details to this particular story on page 7 of the Star today.
Now, talking about matters of security, if I just can give you a rundown, is that Garissa terror convict found dead in a jail cell while a woman drags a man and robs him of 1.7 million shillings. Now, a 24-year-old woman has been accused of dragging a man before using his phone to transfer 1.7 million used as part of the loot to purchase land. Now, detectives are grilling the suspect, and it is said that she paid for the land in Geshogo constituency in 2 installments. That is 200,000 and 500,000. This is part of an ongoing investigation. Then, talking about matters of investigation and arrest, Ben Chumba prepared a report to just show what the DCI is doing in regard to matters of security. Here is the report.
On Saturday, the detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations based in Nyali, Mombasa, arrested a woman who allegedly dragged a man and stole 1.7 million shillings from his bank account. According to the DCI, 24-year-old Beatrice Mweni, while at a club in Nyali, together with her 2 accomplices, spiked her victim's drink, stealing his mobile phone, thereafter transferring the money from his bank account. The detectives claim that Beatrice Mweni, together with her 2 accomplices, have been on the run since 8 September 2020 when the incident was reported. The DCI says Beatrice Mweni, who has been positively identified by the victim, will be arraigned in court on Monday, even as police continue to search for 2 other accomplices who are still at large. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
Where? These streets are not safe. These streets are not safe. Mine hair.
Women be tripping.
That gender.
Come on.
This gender.
You know, this is
that
not a gender thing.
That gender.
That
Manze.
gender.
It is what it is.
No, let's be very serious.
When this gender.
These joints that you guys go catching pints at, you need to be very careful who you're seated with.
Know your environment.
Know your environment, you know, and I'm surprised. I mean, I'm looking at 1.7 million. Anyway, I'm not advocating for stealing. Anyway, I'm just saying, can you be a smart thief?
You know, iba kidogo kidogo pole pole.
Heri ukule fair. You know, I tend to think I'd rather, you know, heri ukule fair than do this. Now, 1.7 million.
Such a withdrawal will raise eyebrows.
Just to be serious, uswai kula fair.
Yeah.
Some of those people who send you fair manze inakuanga imetoka mbali.
Please, Sam,
plane
listen.
tickets.
Yuko imetoka mjengo. Alafu walayo ukitumiwa unakula.
Mbona mtu wa mjengo
The
ananitumia
thunder
fair?
that is going to strike you bado inafanya push-ups, by the way.
Sam, let me just ask you, mbona mtu wa mjengo ananitumia fair?
Sikuwa nasema wewe re, si wewe.
But in hindsight,
ni this gender.
Guys, also,
unaona ni this gender. Alafu unaona sasa imefika 1.7 million. Yani tu inapotea hivyo juu mlikuwa mmeenda drinks na mayengs.
Pia udem alikuwa ameamulia uboys. Haikosi kuna kitu. Either alikuwa
she must have known. And I understand from this story she has accomplices that have not been arrested yet.
Yeah.
So this is someone who's done research. You can't tell me it was a random spiking of drinks somewhere. No, this is someone who knows you, Sam. So those joints that you call your local, you need to be very careful who you hang out with, who you say hi to, and those people who send fare. Mimi sina problem. But kama wewe ni mtu wa mjengo, nikujie mali tuko tutembee. Don't start giving me guilty issues and here I am.
Tripping you.
Yeah, kuja tutembee kama tunatembea. Don't send me fare and then ati nipate mahitaji, nitumie, you start cussing me. No.
Just to be clear,
come pick me up, please.
That is her statement on air. Vitu kwa ground.
Tofauti. Usifanye kama ule mjamaa ataenda kuiba sungura na mbuzi.
Mbona tunapotelea ground?
Tuachane na vitu kwa ground. Let's be very
tofauti kiasi.
Let's be very sincere.
And
you want me to hang out with you, don't send money. I still find that to be weird. And those men who send you a cab, they pin it at where they are. That's also some other weird stuff that I do not like. So if in this situation, come pick me up, then drop me where you got me from, please. So, thank you.
Vitu kwa ground ni different. Lakini this gender enyewe ile mbio mnatupeleka hii town.
Hamwezi kaa bila hii gender pia.
Mwanamume ni effort ama?
You know, atupumuye now. Sasa there's a conversation now being thrown into the works.
Yeah.
Ati haikosi kuna tu chali alikuwa amefanya so udema kamwamulia. So umesikia hizi zile statements zinatoka.
Of course, that will be floated. It's a possible possibility.
Ati sijui lazima ikue.
It is a possibility.
I don't know.
It is a possibility.
It doesn't matter whether it's random or not. I've lost 1.7 million. You're paying for it. And I'm coming after you, by the way, with everything I got.
Everything I've got.
But also men steal from women. Also men steal from women.
The example right now, or the case in point right now, is a woman who stole from a man. And probably ungemwona Instagram akiongea venye ni independent.
Sasa hiyo ndio shida ingine. Unaibia mtu alafu unaenda kushow stop Instagram. Like the other ones that were busted on Instagram after the money heist.
You remember, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Kidogo WhatsApp status, you're a tigress.
So if you've ever
know
read
what you deserve.
A tiger is a tiger.
Talking
not a
about
lamb,
tigers and tigresses, what I believe, and I still people who sell insurance will always tell you this. It is also quoted in John Grisham's book, The 11th Commandment. That is, thou shalt never get caught. And if you're caught, deny once again. Never accept liability.
Did she just say that?
I've just quoted a
quoting.
After a boy child has lost 1.7 million, she has the audacity, the nerve.
It is the 11th commandment. Let's move on.
And the 11th commandment.
Yes.
Hebu tuendelee na gazeti.
Tuendelee na magazeti. Utaendelea ama?
Wechukua hiyo story kwa Nation.
Acha nichukue.
Alafu nichukue ingine hapa ya Kilifi.
Aya basi. Now this story is actually in line with the conversation that I'm going to be having today on our Family Check segment, looking at 16 days of activism. Activism.
Apple.
Activism.
Meza mate.
Activism. I have a gap, guys. So kuna venye V zingine na Fs zina sip through. Zina sip through. Do not blame me. So this is in regards to the massive dropouts that is expected in January, given the numbers that have so far been collected by the ministry. Ministry officials are saying that so far, and this is the information that the Daily Nation managed to gather, they are saying that so far at least 20,000 learners from grade 4, class 8 and Form 4 failed to report back to school during this partial reopening period that we have been in. A month later, they are expected to close school this month. But looking at those figures with this small lot, they are now, painting a very grim picture of what is to be expected when the rest of the learners are expected to report to school on the 4th of January. And the main reasons that have been highlighted here that have at least contributed to this massive dropout that has been experienced so far are issues to do with teen pregnancies, early marriages, and child labor. And now recently, we have been seeing so many young kids being involved in crime, drug abuse, orgies, wild parties, and disappearing from their homes without a trace and without a reason. Now, come January, they are now expecting a completely heartbreaking situation, with even some parents saying that they have intentionally kept their children away from school due to fears of contracting COVID-19, while others are in flood-prone areas and are unable to reach their learning institutions, or their families have been displaced. So these are part of the conversations that we're going to be having today, looking at this particular issues to do with teen pregnancies, early marriages, child labor, rites of passages that are retrogressive, and these new phenomena, issues to do with crime, drug abuse, and children engaging in early intercourse at this particular time, vis-a-vis, especially now that they have been at home for this past 9 months. By the time they will be going to school, what are the consequences of these actions, and how can we help elevate the problem and make it not much of a problem as it is, given this pandemic has just aggravated everything, has thrown the efforts that have been made since 1991 when it comes to trying to do away with this gender-based violence issues that are facing more so our young girls in this day and time. So keep it here to catch up with that discussion.
Now, just to add up something, is that there's a story that has been captured on page 12 of the Standard this morning, is that a woman drowned her 2 daughters, then committed suicide. Now, this woman pushed her 3 children in Kapkaran River, and then she also jumped into the fast-flowing waters in a bid to end their lives. Now, it is thought from the preliminary report that the single mother is suspected to have had differences with her family. 16 days of activism.
I don't get why people take out their anger on children. You use your children to get back to your family or to your spouse. I mean...
Ray, you said that was a woman who drowned children, eh?
Mm-hmm. The other week, remember the one that we were talking about?
When you're in your 4 nyetis to talk.
As in, how?
On this one, I actually agree. This gender, our gender.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why?
This gender iko na shida.
Bedhe watu wache kupata watoto tu hivi. Just because you can have children does not mean you should have them.
This gender iko na shida.
Children are not toys that you can just go about doing to what you want to, in as much as you are the parent. They're human beings, they're innocent, they did not choose to be here, but you choose to take out your anger on them because you want to get back to someone. It is not fair for these children, man.
Jane.
You made the decision
the gender before
to
Sam
have
comes
them.
through.
No, regardless if it's the lady or the man, you chose to have these children.
Jane, breathe.
You chose to let them come into this world.
Boy, okay.
But then, why do you subject them to such?
I'm with you on that.
Why?
Now, let me try and redeem this gender kidogo to as far as the COVID-19 situation is concerned. Now, a woman has given birth to a baby with coronavirus antibodies.
Hey. That's a complete 0 to 100 for me.
Exactly. The other gender has redeemed itself.
Yes.
Okay. Can we also argue that a father sired a baby with coronavirus antibodies? Can we also do that? I mean,
I'm really trying hard.
It is what it is.
Oh my God, I'm still trying not to. This is GE, and I'm thinking this baby might have been conceived through IVF. And I'm thinking those are options. So
Even
please
if it's
let's
IVF,
not look at the conception
even
part
if
of it.
it's IVF, was it?
Was there a
seed from a man?
Oh yeah.
Whether it was IVF or whatever, was there?
Now this seed might have just been a wrong seed.
Thank you. So a man somewhere sired a baby with coronavirus antibodies.
Is just looking at how she'll shut every point you throw down.
Who brought this kid to life? I mean, you can. I'm trying to do away with
I
the
know
sperm donor part.
I know trying to redeem this gender.
Yeah, woman gives birth to a baby with coronavirus.
Give us the details.
Exactly.
Now it shows that in this report is that the active virus has not been found in the samples of fluid around the baby, in the womb or in the breast milk. This is according to a report on page 2 of the Standard this morning. Now the lady is Singaporean, who is infected with COVID-19 in March, and when she was pregnant, and has given birth to a baby with antibodies against the virus, offering a new clue as to whether the infection can be transferred from mother to child. Get details in regard to that particular story on page 2 of the Standard this morning, while their health CS Mutahi Kagwe also has been quoted saying that, hospitals have so far admitted 1,262 patients as 7 died. This is in the last 24 hours, and we'll be keeping tabs on what is happening as far as COVID issues are concerned. Remember, details of this and so much more in as far as news is concerned, you can find them all available on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke. And now for Kinei, who has taken time to respond to the issue ya kukula fair, and says with this a few remarks, then Regina, I'll come pick you up and drop you where I found you. Well, we'll discuss that.
Utawezana. Hey, bra.
That's a very legit question, bro.
Utawezana. You should know what you're...
Wacha nikwambie kwa ground.
Hey.
Kwa ground.
Vitu ni different.
Vitu ni tofauti. Sana. But congratulations to the man who sired that baby with coronavirus antibodies.
Really?
Thank you. That's quality seed right there. Quality seed. I knew what to say.
Oh, well.
So that they'll go down. But you know what? Kilifi has been struggling with teenage pregnancies. And it's been a concern, by the way. Even as we talk about activism. Right, Jane?
As we bring this segment to a close.
And it's
actually in line with the story we had last week about the triplets who were impregnated, all had twins, still in the coastal region.
Imagine. So there's a concern with Kilifi, and we'll be giving you the details in the course of Family Check, which will be coming up at 9. But in the meantime, we're taking a breather.
Much needed breather.
Montage.
Hizo antibodies.
All right, and it's time for our second traffic link. Just as I had promised you, I'll be telling you, the reason as to why those 3 bridges have actually stalled. This is along Ngong Road. Now, what you're seeing right now, this is actually an image of a footbridge in Thika Super Highway. Now, the reason why I'm showing you this bridge is because it's actually what is going to be replicated on those 3 footbridges along Ngong Road. So what Ken have mentioned is that those 3 bridges will have the concrete ramps, will also have the staircases, just like what you're seeing here, and also the top covers, at least to protect pedestrians during the rainy season. So this is actually how it's going to look like. Now, these 3 footbridges will actually be in the first phase and the second phase of Ngong Road, which begins from Kenya National Library to Prestige Plaza. That's where the first phase begins and ends, and then the second phase from Prestige to Dagoretti Corner. Now, what they're doing along Ngong Road is just expanding that road from a single carriage rather, to a dual carriage road, and it is in 3 phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. As I've mentioned to you, phase 1 begins from the National Library to Prestige Plaza, phase 2 from Prestige to Dagoretti Corner, and phase 3 from Dagoretti Corner to Karen. What's already complete is phase 1 and phase 2 of that expansion of Ngong Road. What they're still undergoing in that expansion is the phase 3 beginning from Dagoretti to Karen. Now, if you just as I'm mentioning the bridges, I've not mentioned any bridge around along phase 3, and this is because phase 3 itself will have 5 footbridges. It will also have walkways and proper drainage systems. So what they're just beginning to embark on rather is these 3 footbridges, which will be along phase 1 and phase 2. It hasn't yet started per se, but again, what they've mentioned is that it will take a period of 18 months. So probably if it begins early next year, by the time the entire project is complete, will be probably at around mid-2022 thereabout, because it's going to be a project that will take around 1.5 years. Now, those are the 3 footbridges along Ngong Road. Also, what they've mentioned is that, first of all, again, just as usual, to reduce the traffic flow and also to protect pedestrians. And this is in regards to, if I can mention the death cases, because then again, if you don't have these bridges and the roads are expanded, then it becomes very difficult for pedestrians to move from one side of the road to the other side. So that's what they're trying to do on that specific route. So again, what they're just still trying to do as of now is completing the expansion of phase 3. The 3 bridges have not yet expanded, but began installation. But also part of what they've mentioned as what has stalled that project is just because of COVID-19, getting the materials as well as the contractors. That has been one of the biggest and major challenge, as they've mentioned. Also, they haven't stated when it will begin, but when it begins, it will take a period of 18 months. So how about we look at the traffic flow on that specific route? This is actually along Ngong Road, and again, we will probably begin from we actually begin from the Adams Arcade roundabout as you head over to the other side of Ngong, and also as you come to the city center. This is actually that roundabout, so different from how the city mortuary roundabout is looking like even as of now, because I was just checking that map and I can tell you for sure around that major roundabout, which is the city mortuary roundabout, the gridlock there quite unbearable, which is again so different from this specific one. But this is not one of those major roundabout, the Adams Arcade roundabout, because it just comes from Ngong Road as you leave the estates, as you head over to the city center, and then it branches off to some slip roads, which is actually roads that are heading over to the estates. One specific one is this Elgeyo Marakwet Road, which actually heads over to the Adams Estate, and the other one is Suna Road, which heads over to the areas around Kibra. So clearly one of those, not really one of those major roundabouts, because it just branches off to some slip roads here and there, and coming all the way from Ngong Road as you head over to the city center on the other side. As you leave the roundabout, so actually this is as you leave the estates, the areas of Ngong, areas of Dagoretti, Karen, as you head over to the city center, just before you get to that roundabout, that's just where there's a bit of heavy traffic there, moving at a really, really slow pace. And look at that, there's a difference in color. So where you're seeing that red color is actually the lane that is leaving the estates, heading over to the city center, and that's where I was mentioning that there's heavy traffic moving at a really, really slow pace. That has been well indicated by that red color there. Where you're seeing the green is actually as you leave CBD, leaving the areas of Magathi Way, leaving Valley Road, as you come to the estates on that specific one, moving pretty fast. So again, if you're coming from the areas of Magathi Way, coming from Valley Road, coming from city center, heading all the way to Ngong Road, or even any all the way to the estates, then just looks like a smooth sailing for you. No traffic at all on that specific one. So in as much as there's still some ongoing road works, it looks like there's not really that heavy kind of traffic, because again, oftentimes on most of these major roads, anytime there's either some road reconstruction, either recarpeting or expansion, or even bridges being installed, oftentimes it leads to the heavy kind of traffic. But clearly as of now, in as much as yes, there's traffic on this specific stretch, it's not that really heavy kind of traffic. Also again, one thing I need to mention, which I didn't tell you, is these 3 footbridges. Actually, one of them will be at Kenyatta National Hospital. The second one will be around Coptic Hospital, and the third one will be at the Kenya Science. And again, also what they said is that at least to make it easier also for people coming from the hospitals as well as students. So that is also again the reason as to why these bridges will be installed. However, I'm seeing heavy kind of traffic just as you leave the Adams Arcade roundabout. Actually, again, as you head over to the estates there, this is just slightly past that roundabout, and again on that section, or better yet on that lane that is heading over to the estates, just at a standstill on this specific section, not moving at all on that area. So again, also if you're coming from Ngong Road, just before you get to the Adams Arcade roundabout, on that stretch there, looks like you may have to make do that traffic there. But at least the major parts of this specific route or this specific road this morning at least doesn't really look that bad. Just green all through, meaning that there's no traffic at all. So it looks like as of now, or at this hour, you don't really have to look at alternative routes, because the better part of Ngong Road this morning doesn't really look that bad. Green all through, meaning that at least there's clear ways and moving at a pretty fast pace. But ultimately, even as we continue looking at how the road will be looking like in terms of traffic, we'll probably be trying to look at some good alternative routes, if at all there'll be heavy kind of traffic in our other subsequent traffic links. So that's how we wrap it up at this hour in terms of traffic, but we'll still have much more after this break.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduti ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Juu nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder. 399 shillings. Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua microwave. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari. So tupeleke huko hata mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Unajua nini mama? Niko karibu kwenda shule na sitaki kuwa na stress kukuhusu.
Kristi, hebu rudi shuleni.
Wewe enda mtuwakilishe sisi wale tulishindwa na masomo vipoa.
When Angela and Christy meet at the university, their bond somehow clicks.
That is somewhere up there in the sky on his way to China. I'll never forget when he took us to Singapore. Wow, it was fun.
Followed by a friendship that would defy their parallel backgrounds.
Since umezoea shower, good luck inside there.
How is this door shut?
Kuma bezi nuko mshoishikilie mlango kwa frame.
This new territory presents all manner of fasts as influence, temptation, family histories and peer pressure set in. rest of their lives become a story of love, survival.
Wait. Please, ma'am. Kubali tu story tumalizane twende home.
Influence, backstabbing, jealousy and revenge.
Nimeambiwa tu kule stage muonekana na minji fulani mkikama hapa mtaani.
You decided to sneak from the hostel and go to Ray's studio without consulting me or Tiff.
Join us on Tempted the Campus Diaries as we explore this hilarious never-seen-before drama.
Hebu nilipe pesa zangu wewe.
With a touch to behold. A story of temptation.
Thank you for staying with us this far. If you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. My name is Jerome Boy. Glad you chose to start your morning with us right here on KBC Channel 1. Remember, you can always talk to us. Let us know where you're watching us from this morning using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Jane Womboy. Now, I know Sam had mentioned that we're going to be having this conversation at around 9 a.m. for those who have been with us from the beginning, but we chose to switch it up and have this conversation just now. And this is all about the 16 days of activism. And this is our topic of conversation today on our Family Check segment. Now, this 16 days of activism ran from the 25th of November up until the 10th of December. Has been celebrated every year since 1991 when they were first introduced by the Global Women Leadership Institute to just try and address issues that face women, more so when it comes to gender-based violence. And just looking at the newspaper this morning, there's a story about one lady who was unfortunate enough, she had a domestic violence case with her husband. He slashed her hands off. That story is here on the Daily Nation. There's also been the alarm that has been sounded due to the raised sexual harassment of teenagers, has also been captured here. And this is just what we are seeing today on this particular paper. Fear of massive school dropouts. Some of the reasons that have been cited include teen pregnancies, early marriages, as well as child labor. And now this new phenomenon that we have been seeing with our children, issues to do with crime, drug abuse, sex orgies, wild parties, and just disappearing without a trace. What are we doing to just try and bring down these issues to do with gender-based violence that we are seeing, and more so during this 16 days of activism? Well, to help us with this conversation, I have two gentlemen with me in studio this morning. I'll start with the gent to my extreme left. This morning, he is Torres Sam Omol, who is the founder of Mngaro Mtaani. Karibu sana, Torres.
Asante sana.
Glad to have you back.
Asante.
At the center and to my closer left, we have Bonyo Elijah Don, who is the head of Secretariat, working with Joining Forces Alliance for Children. Karibu sana.
Thank you. And good
Thank
morning.
you for being with us this morning. Now, before we get deeper into the conversation, maybe we could start. Let me start with you, Torres. Just for the benefit of our viewers, you could just tell us a bit about what Mngaro Mtaani does.
Oh, thank you very much, Jane.
Yes.
At Mngaro Mtaani, what we do is basically we stick to our slogan, that is we value the vulnerable in the society. And since the 16 days of activism started, that is since 25th of November,
yes,
we've been on the forefront talking to young girls on issues of menstrual hygiene, that is menstrual rights, and also telling them the importance of them to become an adult, how they should become and how they should keep themselves safe out of danger. And you see, since the Beijing Declaration, that is 25 years ago, many girls are going and many women are going through a lot. So in Mngaro Mtaani, we are trying to curb this this graph to come down.
Yes.
So that is what we are doing, and we will talk more about it as we continue. Thank you very much, Jane.
Absolutely. You'll be telling us a bit about the projects that you're undertaking in line with what you're doing, and also just trying to be part of the 16 days of activism. Now, let me come to you, Elijah, as the head of Secretariat at the Joining Forces Alliance for Children here in Kenya. Tell us a bit about your organization.
Thank you, and good morning once again. Joining Forces Alliance for Children in Kenya is a consortium of 6 organizations. These organizations include World Vision Kenya, Save the Children Kenya, Plan International Kenya, Child Fund Kenya, SOS Children Villages, and Terrain Homes.
Yes.
These are a consortium of child-focused organizations. We are all involved in child protection work in Kenya. We cover collectively 143 sub-counties in Kenya across 41 counties. Annually, we reach close to 12 million children, and therefore we engage with children and their communities and families just to ensure that children are protected, and they're protected all the time.
Yes.
Thank you.
They are part of the vulnerable groups in society that are, worst affected when it comes to issues to do with gender-based violence. And, from even the cases that we're just talking about here in the headlines, last week we had a lady who chopped off her child's genitals. Then yesterday, what we are reading today in the daily is another lady just drowned her children. So really need to do more to protect our children. Now, looking at this 16 days of activism, how do they just intertwine with the plans that your organization has been having from the past, and also looking at the projects that you have for the future?
Thank you. 16 days of activism is more of a campaign. And in as much as we are looking at a campaign from 25th of November to 10th of December, we need to trace this back to early in the beginning of the year, around March, when you had COVID in Kenya for the first time, when schools were closed. As an alliance, we've been engaging with children. So part of what we do is to listen to children through what we call Children Voices campaign. So most of the information we gather from children is the protection at the family level. A number of children are concerned that at the household level, most parents are not providing for them. And when parents are not providing for their children tend to start seeking for provisions from their neighbors. And when their neighbors are not providing for them, they seek for provision within the community. And that becomes a challenge. Now, close to 6,000 children that we talk to over a period of 6 months, one of the key concerns they're raising is their own protection. And they're raising from the fact that they know their rights. So yes, we could be talking about we need to create more awareness on the rights of the children, the rights of women and girls. A good number of children know their rights, and therefore they also know what needs to be done to protect them. And all the things they're saying is that the immediate parents and their caregivers and the authorities within their communities is the first level of protection that are seeking to protect them, even before you get to the level of the police. And they're telling us that they want violence to be prevented as opposed to waiting to respond. And they're saying that unless violence is prevented, then you're going to see more and more cases that require response. You may recall that in June this year, we were the Day of the African Child, and shortly thereafter, the government of Kenya released a survey. It's known as the Violence Against Children Survey Report, with worrying statistics around violations. And later on, you remember the head of state sometime in July had asked the National Crime Research Center to just investigate this matter on gender-based violence. And worrying statistics is that the police statistics indicate that close to 92% increase rate of the number of GBV cases reported. The State Department for Gender indicates that most of the cases that are reported, 71%, are violations against women. And it's really worrying that the Children Department is indicating that every day we have close to 250 cases of child neglect. Now, when we get to 16 days of activism, therefore, we need to look at not just the gains that have been made around protection and ending violence against girls and women, but also the challenges
that lie therein.
Okay. And the critical challenge for me, again, like I said, is the community protection mechanisms within the communities. Yes.
All right. Now, just from what I'm getting, children are able to identify some form of violence against them, but do they really understand the different forms of, violence and even gender-based violence that the different forms that they take from what you have seen as you interact with the children?
Yes, we need to create a balance between the expert definition of various forms of violence and what the children are saying and what they want. The experts will be talking about physical violence, sexual violence, emotional violence. But for children, it's about you hurt me, you violated my right. For example, when you hit them, the expert will talk about physical violence. But the child is concerned, you hurt me, you beat me, When you talk about sexual violence, they may not want to go to the details of the terminologies, but as far as I'm concerned, they know that something happened to them. So I really think that...
so there could be a disconnect when it comes to how the children may be interpreting some of these violations against them and the textbook definitions of what we think.
Absolutely. And of course, one of the ways of solving that is to try and make the terminologies so easy to understand, enable the children appreciate what they are, and then enable the children really talk to themselves among those forms of violations.
All right. Now, let me come to you, Torres. Just on the same breath, on issues to do with gender-based violence and the reality on ground, kuna hiyo disconnect that is there? Maybe the population might not really understand the different forms that are known and what they get to experience on ground.
Let me agree with Bonyo because at the ground, kule kwa ground vitu ni different because the way they are putting their messages up there is not the way the children are receiving it's not in a good way that the children will break it down to themselves.
Yeah.
It needs somebody else to explain for them, like other organizations, like Mungaro Mtani and other community organizations that are working down there. So it is true that that is happening. And the other thing is also the parents, the guardians, they're feeling like this thing. They're not opening up with their children. They're not telling their children on this gender-based violences that the children will be going through, or the children might go through.
Yes.
So we get it at a very difficult. We get a very difficult part when we are trying to explain to these children what is happening and what will happen to them if at all it happens to them. Like yesterday, on a Saturday, we had a group of children from Kibra. From Kibra, this is a dance group, and everything that they do is only dancing to make them feel happy. But when we came up with an open talk, Mtani talk with the children and on GBV, and we heard that the children are telling us many things that are happening, and there's a certain child aliniuliza, Torres, what about kama mtu anakuambia anakupenda alafu unashindwa utaambia nani? Utaambia dadi atakuchapa. Ukiambia mami atakuchapa. Then ukiambia your best, namwambia, what about if you tell your best friend, are you sure my best friend ataambia mtu? So you see, parents, we need to get and talk to our kids
to open that channel of communication.
open that channel of communication, because the children, as much as we are talking about gender-based violence against women, even women are also violating their children.
Yes.
On these few topics that they need to tell them, because mtoto anaogopa kuambia mama. Is that not violence?
Yes.
Sasa ataenda kuambia nani? So we need people like Kinabonyo. We need people like other organizations that can come up with this break down messages, and also talk to the families, to the family heads, to the guardians, so that the children can get whatever they want to know, and let us call a spoon a spoon.
Yeah. Now, from what I'm getting from what you're saying is that there are issues to do with the awareness levels, especially among the people who are expected to be the sources of information and the main source of reprieve, especially for children.
Yes.
Now, what can be done to just try and even educate these parents who are in situations where they feel, you know, that hii si mambo ya kuongea na mtoto wangu, ukuwe mkubwa, utajua ukikuwa mkubwa. In the meantime, don't talk about it with me. You grow knowing what you're knowing, because parents are here thinking, mtoto ajui Kenya anasema. What can we do to just try and remove that barrier that parents feel like, well, it's too young for you to know, and the child feels like, me, I can't tell them what I know because itakuwa vita.
Thank you. It starts with the parental education. You know, the fact that people have gone to school up to high levels or university, it doesn't mean that they really know what we're talking about this morning. So there are an element of parental education that is required close to civic education. Unless parents begin to appreciate their responsibility around protecting their own children, and government and other actors have what we call positive parenting training materials. Unless parents are educated, they're not be able to educate or teach their children properly. So this is not something that requires that you go to a formal school to do. Within the communities where we work, we have had programs of parental education. And parental education requires that parents are gathered together within their villages around clusters, and then they're able to reflect what they know on how to protect their children. They're able to reflect on what information do they need to share with their children and at what age. There's what we call age-appropriate information. So if parents are able to be mobilized and caregivers to enhance their capacity about what needs to be done to protect their children, then they'll be better prepared to give information to their children. Now, information can be given to children either within the household level or a community setup. So even before children get to school, we need to have parents coming together and caregivers coming together, and the structures for this. We have the community health units where most mothers are part of, you know. We have the women groups where most mothers come together to engage on their discussion, and within those spaces they're able to discuss how to take care of their children. Then children also have children clubs. There are children clubs within schools and within communities. So educating children within those clubs is an empowerment to enable them also to appreciate what information do they need to know to protect themselves, even as their parents and communities are protecting them. Now, having said that, we also need to remember, why are we in these situations where parents are unable to provide the right information to children? Remember, all these parents came through a school system. So perhaps what people were taught in schools then, you can imagine you're in school for close to 20 years. And then you become an adult, then someone begins to teach you again. So perhaps within the school system, we need to ensure that life skills is taught to people gradually. By the time they become adults, part of the system. Yes, we don't have to reteach them again. So I think there's something we can do around our school system to ensure that children are educated. When they become adults, they really know what to do, and therefore you don't have to educate them again. And apart from that, again, gender-based violence is caused by gender inequality and discrimination. So unless we deal with gender inequality and discrimination, we're still going to have some of these cases. The violence is just a manifestation. Exactly. Why would you have a community where people are doing these things? You know, there's some power relations around some of these occurrences that we are seeing today, where maybe male or female people are having power-related challenges. But it takes us back again to poverty, because unless we deal with poverty from a gender-responsive perspective, again, the manifestations we are seeing today is a result of the situation that people are going through in their communities. That makes them to see the only thing is to get whatever they want to do and do it however bad it is, and they don't care. So unless we deal with poverty from a gender-responsive approach, there's a likelihood we are going to have these things. And also prosecution. Unless we also ensure that persons who have been arrested for violations are properly prosecuted, then again deterrence will be a problem. For example,
we'll be getting to that in not too long, but I just want to rope in Torres on this, still on the same breath, and issues to do with this state that we are in. The pandemic is said to have aggravated the situation, and this was part of the commencement remarks that were made by the chair of the National Gender and Equality Commission, that is Joyce Mutinda. She said that COVID has just blown things out of proportion. More cases have been reported. But looking at Mngaro Mtaani, with going about your daily projects, interacting with the people, and more so in your community, is this the reality on ground?
100% true, because The other thing that we have seen in the community, that is at the slum level, is that many houses are being, many parents are separating and children are remaining at the center. There's a lot of domestic violence happening. Not really hard war, but it's like a depression. You know, depression maybe also, at my point, I can also call depression as a mental, as a violence. Because when something happens to you, then you are on a high depression. Then you see, what I'm saying is that these things are happening, and we need to take charge of it. We need to talk to people about what we want them to hear, and we need to tell them the truth. Because if the ministry is saying that COVID have really elevated the number of gender-based violence, that is true. But what can we do? What should we do? And what can we come up with? So that's why we are saying JOFA, that is a joint the organization that Bonyo is leading, the JFA. They need to come up with this research in the community level, whereby they can get the feedbacks and see how we can help the children. Because COVID have left people without jobs. And this is also another thing that is happening in the community.
Yes.
If somebody was working in a certain company and now he's not working, that means there will be no food for children. And this is also will make these children to walk away of their homes. And many children are leading to become street children. So there's a lot that is happening in the community level.
Now, the fact that, COVID-19 came and disrupted all the progress that I've been trying to make over the years. Earlier on in the year, we did see His Excellency saying that, we are hoping to eliminate FGM by 2022, and come 2030, we shouldn't be dealing with issues to do with gender-based violence. The fact that COVID just disrupted everything, do you think it's possible to just get back on track on the progress that we had made so far as a country?
Yes, it's possible, and we of course are on track. Reason being, as a country, we are part of the global community, and within the Sustainable Development Goals, goal number 5, SDG 5 on gender equality,
yes,
and of course empowerment of women and girls. Kenya has aligned to that in the medium-term plan. There's a very good framework that shows how government has aligned to SDG. A specific reference to gender, we also have the gender and development policy in this country that provides for very good guidance on what needs to be done. We also have the gender-based violence structures for coordination. With national level, we have steering committees, technical committees, and even the county level. So what these structures then need to do, they need to document what has been done well, document the lessons that have been harvested, and then we use these lessons to sustain the efforts that are going on.
Yes.
And if you do more of prevention, then you are likely to do many more of response. Within the campaigns around 16 days of activism, we are being reminded to begin looking at funding, prevention, response, and the question of data.
Yes.
So unless also we look at the question of funding. Yes, we have all these nice plans in place at national and county government level. So to prevent violations, you need to invest on the interventions for prevention. Now, the interventions without funding, then there'll be no prevention.
Yes.
So we also need to look at, are we really investing enough resources as government, national level, county government, development partners to the right things for prevention?
Yes.
Unless we invest on prevention, then we're not going to achieve it. So our emphasis this morning, can we also look at how much resources are we putting on gender-based violence preventive measures?
Okay.
Yes.
Now, speaking of preventive measures and the efforts that are being put in place, let's talk a bit about the faith community and the role that they have to play in all this. And I want to come to you, Torres. How do you think they fit in, even with this particular theme of this year, Orange the World, as you have rightfully put it, fund, respond, prevent, and collect? How can the faith community just be part of this conversation in the preventative part of this whole process?
Yeah, I think the church and the faith community need to put more efforts, because they meet a lot of congregation every Sunday and maybe at a certain level. So they're the guys who need to talk more about this, because they talk of regardless, they talk with every gender. In the church, there's no gender equality. There's no like we only need men or we only need boys. So they talk with many people. So they need to raise their voice up so that everybody can get to hear about this, because sometimes you can be violated and you cannot tell anyone. If you go to your pastor, then your pastor will come again and talk about it as like you'll not be comfortable of talking telling people what's going in your family.
Yes.
For example, we don't talk about what's happening to us, and that's why we don't have gender-based violence against men, because men, they are always secretive, but they go through a lot. When you hear a man doing a certain thing, for example, we just heard that there's a woman who drowned with a child. A lot of things happening with the women, but now the men, when it comes to the deadline, they just kill and they do a lot of things. The worst thing that they do, and when they do it, you will not expect like this guy will do this thing.
Yes.
So we are saying that the church, they need to come up and talk to men. I will just talk for men. Because we
for your gender.
Yeah, no, it's not about my gender, but men go through a lot during this, even these 16 days of activism. Men go through a lot, and they don't say. Even Bonyo can tell you, he's laughing there. Maybe he's hiding something with his smile, but men go through a lot. So we also need to bring men on board, and as much as we say that it's something happening through women, and it was a declaration made by women,
yes,
we also need to make our own as men. So the church need to play a very big role. Yes.
Absolutely. Remember, we are talking about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. These are 16 days that are set aside every year between the 25th of November up until the 10th of December, just to speak against 16 issues that continue to be a problem when it comes to gender-based violence. We will be letting you know what these activities these days are and how they have been celebrated for the past few days as we gear up for the remaining days up until the 10th of December. But before that, we take a quick breather. We'll be right back with this conversation. Remember to talk with us via our communication platforms, specifically on Twitter using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Remember to tag our official station handle as well at KBC Channel 1, and my handle is at Jane Wamboy. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mulitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduthi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit.
Quickbit?
Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Nilikuwa the lowest unique bidder.
399 shillings.
Quickbit shilingi moja unaweza nunua pizza. Shilingi mbili unaweza nunua micro. Shilingi tano unaweza nunua hata gari.
So tupeleke huko hata
mtu aende huko.
Jiunga na Quickbit ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbit.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quickbit, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Ini last but a mask kwa kalenda. Ya ma master majima basenga.
She's so expensive, okay. Niweke kwa ina mabuda boss tuma kitu. Na tumepia na ya kutoa.
Time already, it's time already. The line already, it's time already.
Make I tell you what you love for a bullet. Anytime it is your body, body, yeah.
Back it up right away. Yeah, right away. Right away. Gang. Mada chafu nikishikaga. Hizo chafu bana shika shashi. Pale bedroom kila siku bash. Hini lynch ndaki kumba.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If you return alive to witness my might, then I assured you that you will be stunned.
Don't worry about us. Think about your journey. Focus on the mission that you are heading to.
People say that I am cruel and ruthless, but I have to do this to maintain order in the state.
I will be very happy to assist a realist prince to reach his destination.
Soldier, go and get some water!
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Finito just can't marry Luisa. I love him.
So happy for you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Ramon.
You don't want to do things my way, then we have no deal.
Want to report that I just saw several men deliver large amounts of drug packages at Medfair Caribbean Shop.
I will always be against that marriage of
I
yours.
don't care, I'm marrying her. I'm going to marry her whether you like it or not.
You are under arrest for drug trafficking.
El paraíso conocimos.
In Love with Ramon.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us this far. This is still Good Morning Kenya, and we are on our Family Check segment today, and we are talking about the 16 days of activism that we are in as a country, part of this global campaign to end gender-based violence. Started on the 25th of November, and we'll be going up until the 10th of December. And I have two gentlemen with me in studio this morning to help with this conversation. To the extreme left, we have Torres Sam Omol, who is the founder of Ngaro Mtaani, and at the center there on your screen we have Elijah Bonyo, who's also the head of Secretariat working with Joining Forces Alliance for Children in Kenya. Now, getting to the other side of the coin on regards to this conversation, earlier on you had mentioned the whole issue to do with rehabilitation and the legal and policy frameworks that lie within the country. You know, these are aspects that are intertwined, looking at the legal aspects, the policies that are in place, and also the perpetrators and also convictions that come as a result. Now, Elijah, from where you sit, how are we doing looking at the legal and policy framework? Are the legal and the policies that are in place as effective as they are supposed to be from what you have seen?
The policy and legal frameworks are adequate.
Are they effective?
Enforcement is the challenge.
Okay.
Implementation is a challenge. So that those frameworks that we really need to implement to ensure that what needs to be done is done. And of course, there's other enforcement component of it, including ensuring that perpetrators are arrested and prosecution is done. And I think that's an area that we really need to improve. At the local level, we have police stations and police posts. The capacity of some of the police officers in the police posts and police stations in terms of gender response is good. However, in some situations, the capacity would not be good. There's a requirement of having what you call the gender desks and of course child protection desks in some of these police stations.
Yes.
Where people are able to get to those places and seek for support or assistance. Some of these desks are just desks. You know, they're supposed to be desks with the people.
Yes.
And the facilities to provide services. And the standards around some of these things. It's not about just putting a desk there and labeling it a gender desk. It requires to be effectively functional throughout. But before you get to the police station, one of the justice component we have is the whole idea of the level of the assistant chiefs and chiefs. The people who see assistant chiefs as chiefs are the first level where they can get assistance. And are our assistant chiefs and chiefs having the right capacity to deal with some of these issues? So we also need to build capacity of assistant chiefs.
Capacity in terms of the power within the jurisdiction or the knowledge or all that goes into being able to assist.
In terms of knowledge, skills, and equipment, including resources for moving from one place to another. Now, the distance between some households to the assistant chief's office could be as long as 30, 40 kilometers. So the assistant chiefs are supposed to move within the communities. Some of them have motorbikes, and occasionally you hear motorbikes cannot move, there's no fuel. Some of them have office space, but they don't have the resource materials to use to educate the people. So we need to look at the community mechanism that most of the time is led by the assistant chiefs. And if you go lower, we have the Nyumba Kumi policy that has created Nyumba Kumi leaders. So again, we also need to invest on the knowledge and skills of the Nyumba Kumi leaders, because they're the first level where communities are able to engage. And lastly, documenting good progress is a gap that we have in this country. For instance, if you asked government this morning,
yes,
do you have like an annual status report on how Kenya government has progressed in addressing gender-based violence and of course gender inequality? What we have is several pieces of information across several ministries and agencies. So we don't have a one-stop report where you're able to say, this is the lessons learned, and this is what we need to do moving forward. Now, going back to enforcement, I just wanted to make a reference to the most recent cases of child pregnancies and teenage pregnancies in the country.
Yes.
Now, we know the number of child pregnancy cases that have been reported, and around June, they were close to over 160,000. But the number of arrests that have been made is not close to the number of cases that have been reported. So where's the problem? If children are saying, I know the person who did this to me, families are saying, we know some of these people, so children are going to the health facilities to seek for assistance, medical assistance and then antenatal assistance. But the perpetrators are walking free. So one of the things the government needs to do is to tell us, among the number of reported cases of pregnancies among teenagers and children, this is the number of persons that we've arrested, and this is the level where we are in terms of prosecution. And that information then will help us to deter.
Yes.
Because unless certain convictions are made, then people would continue thinking this is normal. Let's not normalize. This is not matter to be normalized in the communities the way some people want to do it.
Want to normalize it.
Yeah.
And just because we are in this pandemic, we also did see a multi-agency program being put in place to just try and help elevate the problem. There's a toll-free number that was put in place. Polycare was also established. But let me come to you, Torres. From what I'm hearing from Elijah here is that some of these mechanisms might not be as effective as they are supposed to be, and yet there's so much more that needs to be done. From what you have seen, at least in your community, and also just trying to teach some of this mechanism to the children, because having a toll-free number might not be as accessible to all the children who might be going through this. What do you feel needs to be done to be more effective in terms of getting these perpetrators and seeing them actually going through the entire justice process up until conviction?
Let me respond on the issue of the toll-free number. Let me just ask you: does your brother, young brother, have a phone, or your sister, a young sister, have a phone? No. In the slum, in the slum area, in the vulnerable areas, in the rural areas, these children don't have phones. For example, even the women, young women, the young vulnerable women, they don't have the phone. So where will they make these phone calls? We don't have these public calls nowadays. You need to have your own mobile, even if it is a toll-free.
Yes.
So that is a challenge. And that is something that the government need to check on. The other thing is Bonyo is talking about the distance. For example, in West Pokot area, the chief is like 70 kilometers away, assistant chief. So that distance also brings a lot of communication barrier. The other thing is that when we come back to urban areas, that is in Nairobi, slums, there's a lot of things happening for women. For example, rape cases. If a girl went through rape, and then you are being told that you are not supposed to birth, for example, we know very well if you undergo this thing, that is what I don't want to call on a national television.
Yes.
You feel like you need to have a bath. You need to wash yourself and be clean. But immediately after somebody have just raped you or you're being raped by someone, you need to refresh yourself. But how many days will you go without bathing so that will be your evidence? This evidence will just end out like that. The first thing that you will ask the policeman or the police will ask you, ulioga. Kama ulioga, evidence imeisha. So many women goes through a lot. Can we have like a first aid whereby if there's any rape case, you go direct, then unachukuliwa, then there's a certain body which is taking care of that case, then we'll be getting a lot of people taking charge of what they've been doing. So I think there's a lot of things happening, and the other thing is also on sodomy. It's like a taboo, and many people don't talk about it. If somebody has sodomized you, how will you go and explain to the chief? The chief will ask you, kwani wewe ni wazimu? Wewe akikushika ulikuwa unafanya nini? So you see, the first, wewe umekuja kustaki, then wewe ndio unakaa ni kama wewe ndio mstakiwa. So there's a certain fear. And there's also another issue of if you have cash.
Yes.
If you have money, then your case will not go anywhere. We are a pesa. The other thing also is the family themselves. You come, the child has been sodomized, ama amekuwa raped, but the family is defending the case. Wanasema sisi kama family tumeagree. How do you agree that mmelewana na mwenye amerepu mtoto wenyu ama amesodomize mtoto wenyu? How do you come to that agreement? So these are other things that, as much as we tunasema the police is wrong, ama the government is also doing fishy things, but the family themselves also need to take charge. Yeah.
The family should be the first line of defense.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can have some cases like this, I mean, not to judge, but you never understand somebody's situation, but there's so much that needs to be done to just make this situation better for our children and those who are unable to speak for themselves, more so when they are going through this tough situations. Now, due to the constraint of time, we'll have to bring this conversation to a close, but not before you get to just give your parting remarks in regards to the 16 days of activism. Don't blame me, I have a gap. So some words just sip through. Well, let me start with you, Elijah. By the time we're done with this 16 days, what message do you want the public to just hold dear when it comes to ending violence that is gender-based?
Thank you. The public have their own share of responsibility, including us. So we must consistently hold state authorities or government accountable for inaction. Right from the community, we must raise our voices to be heard. We need to empower the children to raise their voices to be heard. So over and above the 16 days, we must sustain this campaign and let people's voices be heard around violations. Let these violations be reported to authorities, and let's follow through the reports that we make to authorities to ensure that they are logically concluded. Over and above that, there's an immediate opportunity around funding. Last week, the National Treasury convened what we call the sector hearings through public hearings at KICC. So we have looked at the government proposed budgets for the next financial year.
Yes.
Honestly, we cannot trace how resources are being allocated to preventive measures. So the National Treasury really must guide various ministries. And of course, the Department of Gender must do this to guide all the ministries and of course the county governments to ensure we have a component of sufficient resource allocation to preventive measures, and gender responsive budget guides are available. The National Gender Equality Commission developed these guides. So what needs to guide us to allocate resources for gender-related affairs or programs, to allocate resources for prevention, gender-based violence and child protection, the guidelines are there. So the problem then is a number of people within ministries are not appreciating making reference to these guidelines while budgeting. So key message for us this morning, funding. That's the only solution to enhance prevention before you talk about reporting, and then of course data. Thank you.
Torres, your closing remarks in brief.
Yes, I want to agree with Bonyo, because we cannot respond without funding. The other thing is we at the local level, please, we can see we have children officers, but these children officers, they cover very big coverage. They have like a wide coverage. Can we have them at the assistant chief's office so that they can be closer to the community? The other thing, we also need to empower women and young girls, because without empowerment, there will be still more of gender-based violence on them. So if we empower them with like the way we are doing, we are trying to train young girls and women on making bar soaps and making liquid soaps, so that they can be self-reliant. So that is what we can say for now. But we need just to make we need just to have one voice together at the national level and at the local level, so that we can work and embrace whatever we want to do together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. We absolutely appreciate you for making time to be with us this morning and for sharing with us your thoughts in regards to this particular 16 days of activism that we are in. Remember, this started on the 25th of November and will be running up until the 10th of December. And some of these days will be coinciding with some other international events that will be happening, and more so looking at tomorrow, the 1st of December, which also marks World HIV and AIDS Day. That is a conversation that we are also going to be having right here on Good Morning Kenya. But for now, we just want to bring this particular conversation to a close. We have been speaking with Elijah Don Bonyo, who is the head of Secretariat at Joining Forces Alliance for Children in Kenya. Thank you so much for being with us. And we also have Torres Sam Omol, who is the founder of Mngaro Mtaani. Thank you so much for coming through, Sam. We wish you the absolute best as you continue with your fight in the 16 days of activism. Lest I swallow my S's once more. Now, before we get to switch on over, for those of you who are wondering what the 16 days of activism are, you can get all this information is up on the wild web. But for those who are watching us this morning, some of the 16 issues that are being looked at in the 16 days, just to go over them very briefly. We have issues to do with domestic violence, cyber harassment, femicide, FGM, child marriages, ending violence against refugees, ending violence against HIV and AIDS as an epidemic, ending violence in menstrual hygiene management. We have ending violence when it comes to harassment at the workplace. Issues to do with disability-based violence has also been addressed. We have violence against children, stigma against survivors of gender-based violence, ending violence among the youth, sexual violence, ending violence in sports, as well as ending gender-based violence through allyship, and to sum it all, zero tolerance when it comes to gender-based violence. Do keep it here to keep up with all this and so much more as we take this break. We'll be right back with more of Good Morning Kenya.
Now, before we move to the next conversation, how about to take a quick look on what is happening on our roads in terms of traffic? And this morning, our focus was simply on what is happening along Gong Road. Now, this is simply because of those 3 footbridges that are supposed to be installed on that specific route, but that hasn't yet started. I'll just recap a bit for our viewers who might have missed the first 2 links on why they have stalled and also the progress, this in regards to the expansion of phase 3 of that specific route. So how about we start just from an image of how that that specific bridge will look like. Now, this is actually an image of a footbridge in Thika Super Highway, as I had mentioned earlier. Now, there's one as to why I'm showing you this specific bridge is simply because those 3 footbridges on phase 1 and phase 2 of Ngong Road, this is how they would look like. What Kenha mentioned is that they will have a concrete. They'll have a concrete, they'll have the top cover and also the staircase. Now, this top cover, again, as I told you earlier, is just at least to help pedestrians as they move from one side of the road to the other side, especially during rainy season. So this specific footbridge, the three rather, they'll be on phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, which begins from the Kenya National Library all the way to Prestige Plaza. Phase 2 begins from Prestige to Dagoretti. And actually, those 2 phases are already complete and opened up to the public. The third phase, which is still an ongoing process, will have 5 bridges just on that specific third phase, and also part of what will be inclusive there will be pedestrian walkways as well. Now, again, also one thing that Ken had mentioned is that the expansion of Ngong Road on these 3 phases resulted to a lot of accidents. So this is the reason as to why they are actually installing these footbridges. The specific one, phase 1 and phase 2, will take a period of 18 months. It hasn't yet started, but when actually it begins, we'll just be, keeping tabs on that specific route to again see how that will be impacting traffic. So for now, how about we check the traffic flow on that specific route? And right now, we begin from the Junction Mall as you head over to the city center. This is still Ngong Road, again, one of those busy roads, and also one of the reasons as to why it was being expanded, at least, it's just also to make it easy for the business centers on this specific route, and also again to reduce on the traffic flow, given the fact that it's also one of those roads where there's a lot of businesses. Talk about the large-scale businesses, companies along this specific route. Now, as you are leaving the areas of Ngong, coming all the way to the city center, just before you near the Junction Mall, look at that heavy kind of traffic there. In fact, it is not moving at all, just at a standstill. Look at how it is looking like. That's what I was saying earlier, in the first links that we had, that if at all you're coming from this specific area, then again, that time was just clearly the best time for you to do that. However, we'll try to look at some alternative routes, but then again, on this specific area, this is actually where the third phase is still ongoing, all the way from Dagoretti to Karen. It has been a project that has stalled quite a bit, also because of due to the adverse effects of COVID-19, which has made material not to be present on time, as well as also not getting enough contractors. So that is why this third phase has stalled. So when you look at this kind of traffic, it's just because of those ongoing works. And again, I keep telling you all the time also, on these roads whereby there's still ongoing works, happening, or roads that have just been earmarked for a new reconstruction process, this is how the road will normally look like. And this specific one, it is no different. And just where there's really heavy traffic, as you're seeing from our map this morning, is actually on that lane that is leaving the estates as you head over to the city center, which is again also one of those things we would expect because it is the early morning hours. So ultimately, either people are heading to their businesses, workstations, any kind of activities in the city center. So again, clearly what you're seeing is definitely, what you'd expect to see. On the flip side, so on the other side, as you leave the areas of Mbagathi Way, leaving Valley Road, leaving city center, coming all the way to Ngong, on that specific one, no traffic at all, moving at a pretty fast pace, and again, that has been shown by that green color there. And also, it looks like things are not changing as you leave Ngong Road, coming all the way to the city center. So it also means that if you're coming from the areas of Karen, from Dagoretti, from Ngong, as you head over to the city center, then clearly you'll have to do this traffic on this stretch, because also on this just a stretch there before you get to the Junction Mall, there is no alternative route, and actually this traffic goes all the way just before you get to that specific area around the Junction Mall. On the other side, so nothing is changing. Green all through, moving at a really fast pace on that specific area. No traffic at all. But the beauty is actually that past the Junction Mall, still as you head over to the city center on both sides, green all through. And again, anytime I mention both sides, it just simply means as you leave the estates coming to the city center, and also as you leave the CBD heading all the way to the estate. So just past Junction Mall, as you head over to the CBD on that specific stretch, no traffic, moving pretty fast. How about we look at this roundabout? This is actually around the Adams Secure roundabout. If you can remember earlier on, there was a bit of traffic on this specific route, but right now green all through, no traffic at all, moving at a really fast pace. But also around on the Adams Arcade roundabout. It's also not on one of those busy roundabouts. So clearly that could be the reason as to why we're not seeing the heavy traffic on this specific route. And that's how it is looking like in terms of traffic this morning. Our focus has just simply been on what has been happening along Ngong Road.
Thank you so much, Doreen, for that update. And you know what she says about bridges and all, but we'll be getting to her possibly before the show ends. But thank you so much for coming. Asanteni sana Kokuja. This is the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Welcome to the program. We need to lay insight on some, if not all, of the political activities that have been happening for the past 7 days. What is happening with the Deputy President? He seems to be having a change of tune when it comes to the BBI document. And a section of parliamentarians now allied to the Deputy President say that they want multiple questions for the referendum. And what basically this means is that all the issues that have been highlighted by this document to be subjected to a question each. And thus Kenyans get to decide what issues they agree with and which ones they do not agree with. However, we saw the president over the weekend. Actually, it wasn't over the weekend. It was during the week. You remember that launch of the signatures drive where he said that one of the reasons why he had to leave Twitter is because yo kitu manze imejaa matusi. What's happening, Kenyans? Let's talk using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 and at Sam W. Njoroge. I've got Frederick Sasia with me right here in studio, as well as Advice Mundalo. We're going to take a break because it's the top of the hour. People need to take selfies, all right? And then once we return, we'll be shedding light into some of the activities, politically so, that have been shaping political headlines across the country. Good morning. Welcome back to the program. Advice Mundalo is seated to my left, and you'll be seeing him in just a short while. Advice, good morning.
Good morning.
Tuko salama?
Tuko salama
kabisa
sana.
Kabisa.
Kabisa.
Sasa director nirudishie shot. Nikuonyeshe kitu. Yeah, that is Frederick Sasia, by the way. Also joining us, both our political analysts and commentators, regulars with Good Morning Kenya. Advice tuko sawa, ama tuache kuchukua selfie sai?
Unaweza tu chukua.
Oh, sasa. So, we need to understand what is happening with the BBI document. We've seen governors now across counties launching the signature collection drive. We saw an initiative in Mombasa. We saw a similar one in Kisumu. We saw another one in Kiambu. And Vihiga County too, Wilbur Otichilo was at it over the weekend and would like to understand now what next for this document and how come, or what exactly has inspired the Deputy President to ease his stand when it comes to the BBI. Let me begin with you, Frederick. What have you been able to monitor and analyze in as far as this document is concerned so far?
Thank you, Sam. Along the week, we've seen the launch of the signatures, and I want to say it is something that has come as a surprise to the Tanga group. They had taken a no stand, but all of a sudden we've seen a U-turn. It was known that these people are not consistent. And I remember there's a time I said there, even if the alternative voices are put in and whatever they're proposing is put in the document, they will still come up with another reason, either to say yes or to bring issues to why they need to support or say no. So if you read the new bill, you don't understand why the DP has said yes to the document, because it captures nothing he was saying. He used to tell us the 14 billion that is going to the referendum should go to the NIHF. I'm still getting to know that we are going to have a referendum. In fact, signatures are being collected. So I'm wondering, as the 14 billion come out of the picture, he was telling us things like the expanded executive is not a good thing for the country. It will increase the wage bill. It is still there. So my question is, what has changed his mind? And when you analyze, so you understand the man is just too much inconsistent, and being surrounded with people I want to call sycophants and spongers. Sycophants that they want to sing his song. Wherever he says right or wrong, they'll just sing it. And for the spongers, they just want to sing the deepest song so that they get the morning fuel or the weekend fuel. That I'm driving to Shags, I need something to my account. So these people are not really advising the man right. And that's why you hear all of them are now celebrating BBI as though it was the document that came from the Tanga faction. And now the people who are speaking about BBI are now silent. In fact, the signatures are now being so much marketed by the DP people than the Uhuru and Raila people. So this document is definitely going to a referendum. And I don't know whether this is the consensus we are being told, but somehow I believe maybe it is.
Or concurrence.
To me, it is concurrence, because we can still hear people like the Katiba guys, Mother Karu and the group still saying no. So we still do not have consensus. That's why I said we can dwell it on, we can base it being a concurrence but not a consensus. Yeah. But the DP has said yes, I'm waiting for the event where I'll see cameras show him sign the document, or rather put in his signatures to show that he's supporting the document. Then we will call it consensus as he wants us to call it.
Okay. All right. And Rogo is not around, by the way. How are you, Daniel? I know you're watching. Hopefully you'll be able to join us next week. So advise, a section of leaders and stakeholders now are weighing in on this particular document. And we saw what Muslims had to say, that if the president is a non-Muslim, then the deputy should be, you've heard that? Yeah. How possible is it?
I think
are we limiting this document to?
Every person is entitled to give their opinion, because again, we are a democratic society, and so the democratic space must be there, and everyone must be allowed to say what they have to say. But that does therefore not mean that we have to consider everything, because at the end of the day, Sam, even if you postpone this BBI to 2030, there will still be opinion by 2030 that will have felt that they have not been included into the process. So in as much as we are having a lot of opinion every other day, it doesn't necessarily mean that we must be able to stop and look at everything that everyone has to say, because the building of a constitution is a continuous process, and a constitution is a living document. And so we don't necessarily have to look at everything that is being said. What the Muslims are putting across, when you look at the population in this country, they might really have a point to put it that way. But again, I have always been for the opinion that democracy is not supposed to be refereed. And so if the Muslim community feels they need space maybe at the top, then it's democracy. They can be able to field somebody and that person can even live alone being the deputy president, can become president. So let us focus more on getting our authority and our power from the sovereignty of the people than from the legislation of a constitution. So that's where we should focus on more, not necessarily about legislating and saying we must have a youth here, we must have a Muslim, or we must have a woman here. No. Democracy is for the people and by the people. So if the people feel that a Muslim should lead this country, a Muslim will lead this country. We have very many places in this country where Muslims are leading the country, of Mombasa County and very many other places that Muslims are leading the country. So it is not about legislating or refereeing the constitution. It's about going out and seeking mandate from the people.
Legitimately. So. And around 28 counties will be benefiting from extra constituencies. The key beneficiaries being Nairobi, Kiambu and Kilifi. I'd like to come to you, Frederick, in as far as these additional constituencies are concerned. The pertinent question being raised is, are they necessary?
You see, for us to determine whether the additional constituencies are necessary, we have to look at what makes the BBI propose that we need more constituencies in those areas. You understand they're based on population and the area of the place, the size of the constituency. So they are necessary because you cannot have one constituency having thrice the population of another one, and you still want the MP of that region to still utilize the CDF fund equally and people to feel the change. So the increase is purely based on wanting people to receive the change, because the increase is not only the position, but it comes with money. It comes with the CDF. So it means if the people are going to be elected in those positions and those places had to use the CDF well, then even the common man in those areas is going now to realize that it was necessary for us to increase the constituencies. For the people who are looking at it from the wage bill point of view, you know, the truth is the wage bill will continue going high, but we need also to look at it from the common mwananchi point of view. Is he going to benefit? If he's not going to benefit, then we can call it off. But if the common mwananchi is going to benefit from the increase, the way I've said, CDF, development and representation, that an MP can cover an area that is so reasonable, but not an area that an MP will go for 5 years without even seeing the people of certain ward. So for me, I say it is so much reasonable as long as population and the size of the constituency was put into perspective when they were choosing which place to increase the constituency and which place not to increase.
Did we then put the cart before the horse? Because IEBC is supposed to be conducting a review of boundaries advice. Should we have considered the input of IEBC in this particular exercise of additional constituencies?
I think yes, and I think the opinion of IEBC was taken because, remember, Sam, the BBI process was a national process and nobody was locked out of the process. And every other person was able to put out the ideas that they felt could be able to help this country in whatever they including the private sector. So I don't want to believe that IEBC was not involved. So IEBC, in my view, was potentially involved. And I would wish to agree with Sam or with Fred when he says that increase in constituencies means better service delivery to the people. Because then, you know, we should have the confidence, Sam, of knowing that, and putting it outright, that when you look at the number of people, and this is with all due respect, then that Honorable Aden Duale represents, is equivalent to the number of people that an MCA from Kiambu represents. So we should either have the confidence to call the MCA in Kiambu a member of parliament, or have the confidence then to call Honorable Aden Duale an MCA. And I think that is what we seek to cure. And just be able to have that a member of parliament, they would be able to represent more or less equal number of people. The biggest problem that is going to come up, Sam, is we are going to have regions in this country that are going to have very many members of parliament compared to others now when it comes to the August House. And this country being a country that is run on the tribal card, and the interests of tribes are really put forward. Now, when we go into the August House and say the Kikuyus or the Kalenjins want to pass a matter, it is going to be very easy for them because they will have numbers from their numbers of members of parliament. But I think that is something that we must be able to be considerate about and know that it is something that we are supposed to start thinking about as early as today, because that simply means Nairobi alone would have 12 additional members of parliament. And Rift Valley has almost 20-something additional members of parliament. Yet when you look at the entire western region, they have less than 10 additional members of parliament. So at the end of the day, we are going to have that tribal card that will come to play at the August House, and therefore it is something we should think about, but that does not then demean the importance of the additional numbers of constituencies.
Now, are we sort of reading too much with the Deputy President's absence from presidential events? He did not attend the collection of signatures launch. Also, flash forward, he did not attend security talks that were also hosted by the president. Are we reading too much, or it is what it is, Frederick?
You see, first, I'm wondering why Kenyans have taken too long, the Kenyans on Twitter, from shifting that thing they relate with Mheshimiwa Kalonzo to the DP. Because the man keeps telling us one thing today, then the following hour he says something completely different. Because you understand that he's been telling us how bad this document is, then he skips the events related to the document, related to the president. Then next he tweets that I'm the principal assistant to the president, then I need to help the president. So you wonder, how are you helping the president when your seat is always vacant in the national events, but on Twitter, you're occupying the deputy president's seat? So one wonders, does he run the office from Twitter, or he runs the office from Karen and the constitutional point of view on which he was elected? So the deputy president needs to be so much consistent. If he means is the principal assistant to the president, then let him show by the actions. Let him attend the functions. Let him also speak when he attends the functions, be that of the deputy president, but not speak one thing today, behave in a different way today, then the next minute you are tweeting something different and you are behaving in a completely different place. He's been confusing his supporters. They even don't know whether to like the president, to hate the president. They even don't know whether to sign the BBA document or to say no to the BBA document. So those guys are completely confused. And I think even here you can say his people are confused. They really don't know whether to attend the show or not to attend the show. So we are not sure.
Orogo, your presence is missed on the show. Yeah, but over to you, advice. What do you read? Are we reading too much into it?
I have always been consistent in saying that the DP has always been very political in everything that he does. And for once in his life, he doesn't really know what is politically good for him. Because he really, as Fred puts it, for a while now, he has not been able to really come out to show which direction of this he stands. He was able to go and quote a section of the document, section 11A, and say now this is the section of the hustlers. When you look at it, this section has been there ever since this BBI started. So it is not about anything that has changed. So I think the DP is really, and that is the problem when you are doing politics that doesn't have objectivity. When you do politics without objectivity, you fail to be consistent, you fail to be predictable as a leader. Because then you have really nothing you stand for, and the only thing you stand for is your political gain. Now, when your political gain is the only thing you stand for, sometimes it gets to a point and you don't know which side of your bread is buttered. Like today, the DP doesn't really know whether it would be good for him to come out and say no, because he fears he might lose. And he also doesn't know whether he should come out and say yes, because again, he fears that he will have joined the team that he has been castigating all this time. But then, in my honest opinion, I would think the DP should come out, and if he does not really agree with the document, it is not wrong to disagree with the document, because it's a democracy. And at the end of the day, if we are going to have a referendum, we are going to either say no or yes to the referendum. We are not going to say yes or consensus. The option of consensus is not going to be there. And if the DP, as he has always put it, like he has a lot of people and he is supported by the masses, this is an opportunity for us to count the number of hustlers in this country. Let him come out, let him say no, and let us know. These numbers he has always talked about, how many hustlers exactly do we have in this country?
I feel like we need now to move on from the deputy president, because Orogo clearly is not here, and take a quote from Martha Karua, and I'd like to pick your brain. And as far as this particular quote is concerned, and this is what she said. It's been captured by The Standard, it's been captured by the Daily Nation today, that we're here to reach out to Kenyans of like mind to join as we build a movement the Linda Katiba movement to defend the Constitution, defeat impunity, and advance the transformational agenda that we set for ourselves a decade ago. We assure Kenyans that the Constitution of Kenya is still a good document that was proclaimed as one of the most progressive in the world when we promulgated it in August 2010. We are calling on Kenyans to resist the illegitimate, illegal, and ill-timed constitutional amendment initiative. Frederick.
I respect Mother Karua too much because she's a lady who has stood out to be a political kingpin when it comes to women in this country. But we all understand that her political garment is so much stained. Well, once you see Mother Karua, you see a lot of stains. And those stains are coming from the 2007 election. She's one of the people who propagated the highest inconsistency and impunity in this country. We remember Mother Karua standing by the fact that President Kibaki had won, but everyone else knew that he had not won. And people killed each other.
Up to date, we've never known exactly who won, Lakini.
Including even the late Kivuitu said he doesn't know who won.
Yeah, even so, I think, was it the Kriegler Commission that also said the same? It's not clear who won the election.
But Karua knows who won. So that's why I'm calling her off for her being the one to tell us that we need to clear impunity in this country. I understand she might be agreeing with the document, which is right, but she doesn't need to propagate a narrative that she looks so holy. You know, anyone in the political space cannot come to us in a holy verse. She cannot tell us that she's too holy now. She sees how incompetent the president is. She's been one of them. The only thing is, her politics are not relevant. She wants to come back to the stage. And the only way she can come back to the stage is say no to a document that is moving masses, say no to the president, say no to the opposition leader. And I'm glad enough now she's going to say no to the deputy president. So maybe she's going to have some relevance in the political field. But in terms of input to the document, she's so much irrelevant, especially the people surrounding her, people like Ndi. Ndi has been a bitter man. He brings nothing sober to the table. All the guy brings is bitterness. I don't know why, but I hear that things did not work the way he wanted. So the bitterness are so much too high that he cannot even express his mind and soberness to the document. And now he's now just telling us, don't support the document. Ask the reasons, they'll tell you the president has not performed. That is not one of the reasons we need to support or go against the document.
Okay. This version of Frederick clearly is working for the show. And atupa tu shade hivyo lakini ni sawa. Over to you, Advice. What do you say of the Martha Karua's stand in as far as the BBI is concerned?
I think Martha Karua's stand is her constitutional right. And I would say I would respect her more than I would the deputy president, because she has outrightly come out and said she's going to be part of the people who are going to lead the No campaign. And they have all the right to do that. And we must also not run away from the reality that we have a section of this country that does not really believe in the BBI document, and they have a right to do so. And so I think what the people who were really enthusiastic to say no to the BBI were lacking was a leader. I think at the end of the day, because they were looking more into the leadership of the deputy president, now at last, they have a leader who can be able to lead them in championing that cause. And I think Martha Karua is good enough to lead the cause. And apart from just the honesty of her not supporting the document, I also want to believe that there are also political intrigues into it. She's really also looking for bargaining space. I think with no one being on that side, she stands to be the only one on that side, and therefore it might give her a bargaining power even as we head into the 2022 polls. I think it is not a bad direction, but the only issue I would have is the people that she chose to put around herself in saying this, because she gathered more of activists into propagating this narrative. Most often, we look at activists, mostly they do not come out from an opinionated perspective. They always almost come out from a hatred perspective. So we don't know whether they will be able to spew bile about the document or just be able to coerce Kenyans using reasonable means and tell them that this is the reason then why we need to say no to the document. That is the only reservation I have. But then I think it is the right thing for Martha Karua to do, and because this for us to have a successful referendum in a democracy, we must have people saying no, and we must have people saying yes. And she must also tell people why she is saying no, because people need to really understand what this is about. Because the more we have people on different camps of this divide, the more we are going to have sensitization going on, because the more then the people will get to understand what is happening. But when you don't have two sides of a coin, people are only going to be driven into one direction without necessarily even understanding what this is about. The more we have those people opposing the BBI, the more even those who are for the BBI will have to categorically explain to people why they are for the BBI. So to me, it's a good move. It's a welcome move. It will, at the end of the day, help this country.
And how feasible and viable is this proposal to have a multiple queries for the referendum? Frederick?
It's all about politics. You see, the way my friend is saying, it's either you support or you don't support. Why are people really struggling to be either part of yes and part of no? They want to be in between. You see, it is very easy. If I don't support the document, let me just join, let me join the no camp. If I support, let me join the yes camp. But these conditions we are bringing in between are even confusing the people too much, because I don't really understand how the common man will be able to read all those multiple questions and answer yes and no. You know, they already know that it is either yes or a no. So the people who feel this document is not fulfilling to them, let them join Mother Caro and say no. She's not bringing in some conditions, but she's just saying no to the document. So let us also say no to it if I feel it is not right. And if I feel it is yes, let me just say yes because I feel the document is right. But this idea, and I want to blame the Deputy President on that, because if the man was brought in the middle ground, where people are saying yes and no. It is true, by the way, I'm seeing you're surprised. People are saying yes and no because people are saying yes and no because their leader is also saying yes and no. You see, if today I support, let me say, Mheshimiwa Deputy President, then he says no to the document, definitely from our dynamics of politics, I'll say no. But if somebody stays in between, even the leaders, and you remember I said we have sycophants, then we have the spongers. So these guys are surrounding their top leader. So they really don't know what to say. They do not have a stand. They also want to tell us, let us have for this, let us say no. For this, let us say yes. If it is not right, let us say no. If it is right, let us say yes. You know, if we have a stand, we're helping the country. We're also helping the people who are following us to make a good stand and reason to support Ama say no to the document. But when we keep flip-flopping, then we make the people also not understand. Remember, the supporters depend too much on their political leaders and political kingpins. So when you confuse them, they also get confused. And this is how now people will not even either vote for the document or go and vote yes, yet in the real sense, the same people feel the document is not right because they're just misled.
Okay, confusing the thunder, you say. All right, over to you, advice.
I think the only thing I would be different from Fred is the energy with which I say this. But then I think he's more or less right, because you would look at the supporters of the DP and honestly they are confused. On the day of the launch of the unveiling of the signatures, we saw Honorable Millicent Omanga tweet and say at last the needs of the hustler nation have been put in place, and therefore we are going to support this document in totality. A few minutes later, the Deputy President tweeted about consensus, and Millicent Omanga had to delete her tweet and say that her account had been hacked. So you see, this is the confusion that is going on in the camp of the Deputy President, and it is basically, the flip-flopping is basically because of his lack of stand, although it also questions then the integrity of the leaders around the DP, because I think this subject is not just about the decision of the DP. It is a subject about Kenyans, and it's a subject that people are supposed to make independent decisions about. People are supposed to read the document and make a decision. It is very unfortunate that in this country we have people who have sat down and they're waiting for the DP's decision. The DP's decision therefore affects their decision, which simply shows you the unfortunate levels of our politics, that we are not having independent decisions, not just even from the ordinary mwananchi, but even from the leaders, that the leaders cannot just read a document and make a decision, but they are busy flip-flopping and they are waiting for someone to make a decision on their behalf, which basically shows that it's all about political intrigues and very little about the substance in the BBI. And that is what has been unfortunate in this country and kept derailing the country. I would wish that the leaders, when it comes to matters constitutionalism like the BBI, would have leaders allied to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga saying no to this document, because it's not about Raila Odinga, it is about what they believe in this document. We should have people who are actually normally in support of the president also coming out and saying no. It's just awkward that when you support the Raila Odinga, all of you must agree with his stand. When you support Deputy President William Ruto, all of you must agree with his stand. And you are also elected leaders. It is an unfortunate scenario, and that's why I think the country keeps moving at a slower pace than it should.
Now, this is a document that is supposed to bring everyone together. At least that was the idea.
Yes.
And still remains to be, as you listening to the voice of the president and the former prime minister. But as things stand right now, Frederick, what will it take to bring everyone on board and to flow easily?
You see, we keep talking about democracy. In a democracy, don't expect everyone to agree. We will have people who will disagree and people will agree, and that is the beautiness of democracy. So the idea that we are going to have a document from heaven that is going to unite everyone, the same way the Bible unites all Christians, it is a lie. Because you see, when you go to religion, you don't have democracy. You either believe in Jesus and God or you don't. So when it comes to the Constitution, you cannot have everyone agreeing on the same. There are people who still believe the 2010 document is not good. And we are still living in the country where the document is working for them. There are still people who still believe the 2010 document is very good. But that is all about democracy. So the idea that we need to have a document coming from somewhere that is going to unite all the top leaders, unite everyone in the villages, and it is a lie. Me, I'm for that fact that people should say no, people should disagree. And that shows now we've grown our democracy. We've gone to a level whereby no one can force something on us. We can read and make our decisions. And for the goodness of this country, we need to stop the idea of thinking that Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga now came with an angel-written document or an angel-written initiative that will unite this country, that will finish all our problems. After BBI, our problems will still remain in place. Before BBI, we still have problems. The best way to solve our problems is, as an individual, work towards solving them. If you are in poverty, work hard to be rich. If you've not gone to school, work hard to go to school. If you have elected the wrong leaders, 2022, make corrections. But don't imagine that now BBI is coming, it will change the election dynamics in this country. We'll have good people in the elective positions. No, it is us to change, not the document to change us. It is us to make good use of the documents and even go beyond. Because the document will tell us on which person to elect, a person whose integrity is good. But if I don't make that decision of electing the right person, then the document is meaningless. So let us not imagine that BBI is coming as an angel. BBI is just any other document. It is not coming to solve our problems. It is just coming to enhance our constitution to a level better than what we have now.
Mi niko sure tu mahaslas mtanipiga after this because let's take a break. And when we return, we'll still focus on the BBI because there's uproar over the use of chiefs to collect signatures across the country. We'll be getting to know why exactly this uproar is in place and is it even valid in the first place. This is the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya. How are you doing? Thank you so much for being a part of the program. We are taking a break. We return in a few. That was fast, but welcome back. And thank you so much for being a part of the show. Now, the collection of signatures is ongoing across the country in as far as validation for the BBI document is concerned. However, there has been concern that has been raised over the use of chiefs when it comes to collection of these signatures. Some argue, yes, it's valid because wao ndio wako kwa ground, so they understand in terms of access and getting to the people. Others say that, you know what, they should be away from this particular process, stay away rather from this particular process and leave it to the politicians. Frederick, over to you.
You see, I disagree with the fact that we are using public servants and the local administration to collect signatures. This is something that started early in 2013. It came to 2017 when President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy were using the local administration to propagate their politics. I remember at one time President Uhuru telling chiefs in Ukambani that tunawaona sana na tutadili na nyinyi. So it is something that is wrong because public servants are supposed to be apolitical. These are people who should serve people irrespective of your political stand. Whether you belong to the other group or not, these are people you expect are not supposed to take sides. But when we use them to collect signatures, then it means those people who feel maybe the document is not right will not have the confidence they are supposed to have in these leaders. Once I go there, I'll be viewing the person as a BBA supporter or rather a person who is supporting Uhuru Kenyatta. Yet in the real sense, we don't need such a perspective when it comes to our local administration and public servants. So as a country, we need to grow whereby we separate politics from other things. That if this thing is political, let us use the politicians, or let us maybe employ other people to collect the signatures. But let the chiefs do their job that they are put in office to do. But once we continue confusing them, then you'll have the chiefs and the local administration now having political stand that will be so much detrimental to our country, especially when we come to election time, when we need these chiefs to provide security, to provide information on how those places are going on. They will provide the information that is a lie. So the security personnel will not react to the truth because these people will be providing in relation to their political stand. We need completely to make these people not to be in politics and to have stands that serve both the people they feel they support and people they don't feel they support.
Okay, advice?
In my view, I think there is no problem with the chiefs collecting signatures because if chiefs are just supposed to be serving the people, I think that's part of the service because people need a place they can be able to access when they want to sign to endorse the process. And so I don't think that makes the chiefs political because they would become political if they would be telling people to support the document or not to support the document. But in an avenue whereby the chiefs are just providing logistical solutions, because at the end of the day, the person deep in the village needs to understand, when I want to sign this document, where do I find it? It's only legitimate that they go to the chief and then they can be able to do that. We cannot be able to say that let us leave this to the politicians. Remember, from the beginning we have kept saying that the BBI is not about politics. It should not be politicized. So we cannot want to politicize it now. The only place where the BBI should become political is now when we go out to the referendum and now it is a vote of yes and no. That is where the politics comes in. But when it comes to people in public service, just ensuring that the people are served and they are served in the right way, to me, I don't feel that is political. The chiefs must be, remember the BBI is part of government agenda. And so it is only right that they are able to spearhead the government agenda. The only problem would be if they now join into the politics. The only place where the BBI as a government agenda now jumps into the political realm is now when we go now into the election. But for as long as, for example, the BBI task force was moving around the country, they were being helped by the county commissioners, that's to ensure that they have the venues, to ensure that the process goes on smoothly. But they are not coaching people on what to say when they go before the BBI. They were just providing logistical solutions that government is supposed to provide. So to me, the chiefs being part and parcel of the people who are going to just ensure that the people are able to access the document and be able to sign and they maybe even distribute the document. To me, I feel that is not politics.
I think Sam, yeah. When we started, advice said that our politics are drawn around our tribes and regions. So I want to imagine a chief in Siaya and a chief in Eldoret somewhere. Now, a chief in Siaya sees somebody, people are not coming to sign. This chief will be forced now to tell people, come and sign the document. That is politics. a chief in Eldoret somewhere, because he believes this document is not right, or he comes from a region where people believe it is not right, he will not even want people to come and sign. So we are putting these people in a precarious situation where they'll have now to advance their personal interest. You see, being a public servant doesn't mean you don't belong to a certain political faction. Yes, you do. But by virtue of you being in that position, it is expected that you're not going to take sides. But if you are put in a compromised way, then it means you'll also have to speak your mind out. If I'm a chief in Siaya, then I'll even have to tell people, come and sign the document, it is here. And remember to sign it because we need this document. If I'm a chief at Eldoret, I'll be telling people, don't even bother, this document is not right. And that is now how politics comes in. My issue is, let us not put chiefs in a position whereby they'll have to speak which faction of the political side they belong to. Let us let chiefs be chiefs, and if we wanted people to access this document from somewhere, let us go the IBC way. When they're doing voter registration, they employ people. We should have employed youth maybe to collect the signatures. We should have used party offices or opened somewhere in a primary schools all along the country and said, if you want to sign the document, visit a polling station and have 2 or 3 clerks there. That is okay, but using chiefs is compromising these people from doing their exact constitutional work.
Okay, advice?
Sam,
at
the end of the day, even if you put people in a primary school and they are supposed to put, they will be paid by the government at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, we cannot be able to delink the two. And let us not imagine that our chiefs are so unprofessional and they are just picked from wherever. These chiefs that you're talking about, Apo, have been trained to do their job. And in as much as every other person must have a political opinion, even inside the BBI task force itself, those who are Kenyans and they have political opinion, we have some segment of part of the people in the task force who even have come out to almost not even support the document. So we will never delink politics from personalities. But what we are saying is that people must be we must be able to trust our institutions and be able to trust our professionals. That's why when I come to a show like this, Sam, the host, Sam might have his own political affiliation. He might have his own political agenda that he would wish to propagate. But when he comes here, he's professional enough to moderate an unbiased show. So that is why when we put this agenda out to the chiefs, let us not just imagine that the chiefs are just some lunatics we picked from wherever. These are professionals who have been trained and they have earned their place in that seat of a chief, of a county commissioner, and therefore we must trust them enough that they can be able to spearhead a process. We cannot always judge our professionals as if they are just imbeciles who came from nowhere. These guys are professionals, they have been trained, and they know where to separate the politics from the work.
Umeongea kwanza hiyo pati ya Sam hapo hivyo hapo umeongea manze. But you know what, you remember the hiccup that ODM stroke NASA suffered in 2016. We all remember the Black Monday, right? Tear gas Mondays in a bid to oust the commissioners for IEBC then, and the validation and legitimacy of these signatures was questioned. At yo sijui wengine wamechora ng'ombe. You know, you remember that conversation, right?
Yeah.
How do we protect the success or the BBI, the signature collection process from a similar outcome moving forward, Frederick?
You know, it is very hard for IBC to be so much impartial in this process. In 2016, they threw out the signatures because of the politics of the time. And right now, I don't even expect Chepugati to maybe think of saying no to that signature because he knows this is a government project. The president. He's been talking because
in a manner to suggest.
No, you see, he's been talking because his job was touched. But you see, in the current bill, I think his views were captured in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say that political parties are not going to elect people into IBC positions. So the man is there to stamp. You see, IBC has been there to stamp the political will of the people who are in a politics of the right politics of the time. So I've never had trust in IBC being the people to now offer us the right refereeing of anything to do with politics, because all along, since 2007, 2013, 2017, we've seen IBC being the problem. So I don't know how we can do it, but we need people in that office that can really say no to the signatures when it is really true the signature does not meet the threshold. But we have people in that office that they will receive a phone call, or rather they will see where the wave is moving and they'll go together with the wave, or they'll respond to the phone call in the positive manner. So IBC is not people we can bench on whether to see the legitimacy of the signatures or not. They always play politics. And separating IBC and politics is what my friend says it is impossible, because IBC is a political office. In as much as we want to say that we need people who are political in those offices, it is very hard because these people are put in with the same politicians. You cannot play against your bosses and expect to win. You'll always lose.
Advice?
I agree with Fred, because it is very difficult for me to sit here and be confident that a government body is going to stop a government program or a government agenda. But then I also, there has always been this narrative about the donkeys and the cows that were on the signatures in 2016?
2016.
But we should also not run away from the fact that we have human beings who can have that as their signatures, because and it's not wrong to have a cow as your signature
if you so wish.
So we should not try and make people run away from their own signatures.
From cowing and dogging.
But that said and done, I think the biggest problem that we have when it comes to the IEBC and the verification of signatures is, you see, for you to verify something, Sam, you must have the original. You must have a document unto which you are putting this against, so that you have the official signature of Sam or of Fred. Then when now this signature drive goes on and they bring you the signatures, you are able to then say this is the signature of Sam, but the one that is here, this is not his signature. But how are you going to verify things yet you don't know, you don't have their originality? That's why I get confused, because the IEBC doesn't have a database of signatures of all Kenyans. So in the verification process, what do they really base on? What do they really bank on to know that this is not my signature and this is my signature? Because when you go to the bank, Sam, you are able to be told we cannot be able to give you your money because this signature does not tally with the one that you was given during the opening of your account. So when we go to the IEBC, what are they banking on to then tell me that this signature does not tally with which one? Because they don't have the original signature. So how do they verify this one that I've given them? I think that is where we get to a juxtaposition. But then, in my view, I think the IEBC, and when it comes to collection of signatures, I think it is just part of what is legal, and it's just a process that will go through. I don't think the government is going to have a problem passing a government agenda and a government body. Yes.
Well, we're just about to wind up the show, but before we do, it's a transitional moment in the U.S. when it comes to the presidency. And of course, whether Trump will concede or not, that's a conversation we will have at a later date. But I would like to pick the views of my guests right here in studio. In as far as the transition process is concerned, already there is a conversation shaping up on social media when it comes to the team that has been picked to actually spearhead communication for Biden and Harris. And very quickly, let me get your thoughts, Frederick.
You see, the United States is going under a situation like the Kenyan situation. There's a lot going on Twitter as opposed to what is going on in reality. President Trump calls a press, then he speaks and says and instructs his people to continue with the transition process. And then he goes on Twitter and say, I'll not accept. So it is a funny situation, but it's also good, a lesson for the world, that even the big boy is struggling with what they normally propagate as democracy. So democracy is not something that is uniform, can be benched along the world, that such a country has democracy, that they can behave and do everything in their democratic space and rights. So even Kenya or Africa or Asia and any other country that are struggling with democracy, understand it, the way you struggle is now growth. United States is now struggling with the democracy because they are growing. So what I know is coming next year on January 20th, Biden will be the president. President Trump will not have a place to stop that, because United States has developed a system whereby you cannot stand in front of the system. It will kick you off. So Biden is the duly elected president-elect of the United States, and is going to occupy office when the right time comes. The only thing I love about United States is they have a system whereby it offers time for 1 to vent, offers time for one to give his frustrations, but at the end of the day, the process has to take shape. And Trump has been tweeting a lot, but Biden has been progressing to form government. So that's how you understand. You see, if it was in a Kenyan system, you'd see maybe Biden being harassed. But you see, all the security forces have taken shape. Biden is secured. He's given all the platforms he needs. So that shows the growth of democracy in that country. So I believe United States is going to proceed the same way it's supposed to proceed as their constitution provides.
All right. Advice?
I think the more we look into this U.S. situation, the more we start wondering whether America is getting African. But then, in my view, I don't want to really agree a lot with Sasia in terms of the transition is going to be very smooth. Because so far, I don't see anything smooth about it. We have seen the president insist that he's not going to concede. And we have also seen some frustration, per se, to the Biden team because we've seen them not receiving their congratulatory messages from other countries, say. So there is more than meets the eye. There is always this assumption that the U.S. is a very organized state and therefore everything will be able to transition very smoothly. But if history, this recent history is anything to go by, we have been able to see the president really frustrate some processes and being successful at it. We have seen the president even hire and fire people even after the election of Joe Biden. So I think this is a watch and see game. And so we just need to stay put and see what happens in January and see whether actually Biden will be able to take over the leadership of the U.S. It is not going to be as smooth as we imagine that it will be. I think the U.S. is just like any other country. They had just not faced a challenge of their magnitude. Now they have a challenge of their magnitude. Let us see how they stand up to solve this as the giants that they have always said they are.
Okay.
Yes.
And of course, they've picked the communication staff for the transition, and it's all female. And thus sparking a debate about the gender principle. Clearly, Sisi Sipeke tuna struggle on it to a gender principle. This is a conversation that will definitely be shaping up online. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching the show. We need to pave way for News Check that is coming up at 10 a.m. Frederick, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Advisor Sante Sana kwa kuja. Daniel Rogo, your presence was missed on the show. And we hope that you'll be back with us come next Monday. Thank you all for choosing KBC to kickstart your morning. My name is Samuel Njoroge. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm a visual artist in Nairobi, and I've been doing art for about 5 years professionally, like as a career. 5 years. Before that, it was through college. I used just sketch work, doing some portraits to Kaiser. Then the interest came after college because I was supposed to be employed. I refused to go to work. Ended up doing art, trying to hustle out. Trying to just figure out how art will go. Everything just led to another thing. I was mentored from Bungoma, so that's why I was raised up. That's why primary, high school, mostly around that area. So after high school, I did that. Went out into the art industry. I was just hustling, trying to get some work, and doing some interesting stuff with some people. So they mentored me into the art, learned the article, the struggles of being an artist, and it just picked up from there. Through college, Kafanya. Now it's work. And after that, it's been learning through YouTube, tutorials, how to draw, how to do this and that. After that, it's I met a few guys, a few friends in art in Nairobi, did some work, I did some exhibitions, everything just picked up. I usually buy a lot of records. I have them stacked up. So I'll go through the records if I see something interesting. Like if it's a musician, then I'll try and maybe learn about the person. Or if I know the person, maybe it's like a legend or something. So then you try and figure out if you have an idea for an artwork for it. If you don't, if you have, then you try something out. So you just flip through, get an idea, do another piece, flip through, whatever comes out. Because they usually have some interesting levels. You can just try and match up with the artwork. In my work, I love music. And I love to sketch, mostly figure drawing. That's what I do in pencil work. And but for me, music is everything. I'm inspired by music. There's so much to talk about when it comes to music for me. It's about the experience I get listening to music, having to dance in the studio, just having fun. It's the influence, being influenced by someone more. It's another creative. They have their own influences, the way they do their music on Africa. So getting influence from other creatives, for me it works. So I choose to be happy with the connection I get from music. That's what my work revolves around. The connection I have is from music, so trying to use materials that truly impact. Instead of painting a musician, you can paint a musician, it's okay. I'm good at painting. But the idea of having to use a record that maybe the musician was in, like these are Michael Jackson and these are Michael Jackson records here. Like actual records. So trying to, it's like the records are broken, they're scratched up. So you set is Copoa. So just giving them a second life because they can't be burnt, it's like plastic. It's even toxic kuzichoma. So I just using records to give them another form. The music they did in the records comes back to an artwork. It's like you build an image in your head. And every day you wake up, you have more ideas for it, so you just build on it, edit it in your head, and see how it works out. If you think you have something interesting, then you just come out and reproduce it from whatever you've seen. I think with that, the idea is to get something that defines you, something that it's getting a technique that you'll be known for, or something that is you. Most people see them in social media, they see images, but maybe they think it's a black painting. But having to come physically and see the layers, see everything that's happening, it's very interesting for them. So it's really positive feedback most of the time. Challenges have been there. A lot of challenges, man. Working with people you don't like, or maybe you start off with ideas, projects, and then halfway things get complicated. Such things happen. The complications are just the same stuff. Trying to get work, trying to get exhibitions, trying to implement your ideas. If you have an idea, you want an exhibition, you can't get a space that agrees with your idea, then such challenges here. That's why we decided to come up with a studio. Now at the studio, it's a home studio. It's called Studio Soko. It's in South B. So the studio gives us a chance to do our works, and we have space to showcase it without having to go to someone else. If you have a challenge, then cut it off. Yeah? Get a solution to it. Now we have a studio that works as a showing space. You can come, people come, interact, have fun. Challenges are there, but just be positive about things, man. The guys I try to mentor, I try to help them find their own voice. Like maybe they're not the same as I am, so I try and maybe they might not know it like in their work, but you can see their works and you're like, this is an idea you can try and build. This is something that is continuous in your works. You can see. Just try and help them develop their own. Yeah, you give them more ideas about their work, how to make it that's better, but more skillful work. It's crazy nowadays because you have social media and then you're exposed to all of these things, all of this art, people are doing, people are successful, all these things. Try and avoid, because what you'll get from that is you want such a life, or you want something similar, or you want to do exhibitions. But you have to learn how to grow. Give yourself time. See, what happens is your fear, because you want to do all those things, be successful, and you don't respect the process of having to practice, learn. Yeah? You want glory and you want to do all those things. Take your time. Learn through the process, talk to people, let them advise you how to do these things. Just develop your own idea, technique, focus on what you like, the ideas you have. Get someone to help out, and you just build something.
She's so expensive, okay.
Niweke kwa inamba muda boss, tuma kitu na tumepia na ya kutoa.
Shine already, it's time already. Align already, it's time already. Make I tell you what you looking for a bullet. Baby, come and use your body, body, yeah. Back it up right away, yeah, right away, right away. Gang. Mada chafu nikishikaga, hizo chafu bana shika shash. Pale bedroom kila siku bash, hini lynch ndagi kumba.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
If you return alive to witness my might, then I assured you that you will be stunned.
Don't worry about us. Think about your journey. Focus on the mission that you are heading to.
People say that I am cruel and ruthless, but I have to do this to maintain order in the state.
And will be very happy to assist a realist prince to reach his destination.
Soldier, go and get some water!
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Jimmy, kwa nini? Nilimkosea. You might need to take care of him as well. Are you attempting to get rid of everyone associated with Richard? You're the one who said the police are after you.
So, you're saying I've done nothing worthwhile here?
Saying you've got some tough decisions ahead of you.
Nataka sasa niwache kila kitu tena kwa sababu yako.
This is more important.
Utajuaje?
Binti, for once, do as you're
Mimi
told.
si mtoto.
I'm owning up today. I'm going to make things right.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Finito just can't marry Luisa. I love him.
So happy for you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much,
Really
Ramon.
you don't want to do things my way, then we have no deal.
Want to report that I just saw several men deliver large amounts of drug packages at Medfair car repair shop.
I will always be against that marriage of
I
yours.
don't care. I'm marrying her. I'm going to marry her whether you like it or not.
You are under arrest for drug trafficking.
El paraíso conocimos.
With Ramon.
I'm an artist. So basically what I do, I create crafts from papers, cartons, and I usually paint them. But they are used as centerpieces